counts. These are some of the things that we need to answer on the state level to make sure that we are having election integrity, not just when it comes to the ballot box, but also when it comes to the chain of custody. When it comes to all these are some of the things that we need to mass mail-in ballots. That's all I got to say right now. It's just that was
Thanks, Earl.
on my mind.
I appreciate those comments, Earl. I want to welcome ALX up here to the stage. Alex, I've seen you on stage. If you want to chime in at any point, you just throw up your hand or whatever, or if you want to comment, just let me know. No problem. Thank you for joining us.
ALX, the Lord.
Yes.
Yo, what's good, homies?
Glad to see you back on
Alex.
Twitter. You know, it feels like home again. We get all these people that have been missing from the equation that really had no reason to be missing from the equation, especially so many of them absolutely had no reason to not be here. To see these people show up in spaces just makes me feel really good inside.
It's like
Mariah,
2015.
Go ahead.
Said it's like 2015 again.
It is all over again. It's great. Mariah, you get your hand up. Are you there?
I am, but I think maybe Nikki and The Intelligent were before me. But I'll go if you want me to.
Go ahead, Mariah.
Okay, so thanks. Good evening, everybody. And thank you, Tyler, for being here. I love watching you on Charlie Kirk, and I appreciate your insights. And I agree, as you really clearly laid out, we need to have a clear plan and finance for an effective ground game in the next cycle. I'm wondering and I'm worried about how we overcome that money gap because while it is yet to be proven to what extent, if at all, the FTX financial scandal was an actual factor in this political campaign finance in this cycle, how do we counter the opposition's money shenanigans? They're killing us on money and mobilization.
They're killing us on money and mobilization. Tyler, did you get that? How do we counter the finances? What are we going to do to raise more money? Money's definitely an issue. We talked about $75 million just to have a ground game in competitive states. What can we do to get money back headed toward in our direction the way that we're going to need it to actually be able to really go in full steam ahead? What's your plan for that? Do we have a plan for that? Should we come up with a better plan? Any thoughts on that, Tyler or Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of going on more of the conversation we had earlier tonight, which is, I mean, look, ultimately, the leadership within Congress has more access to the bigger donors than the average American. So state party chairs have somewhat, but the RNC, the NRSC, the NRCC, the RGA has access to these large donors in a way that you and I don't. And so the reality is this is part of the reason why leadership matters is, you know, they have kind of sucked up all the air in the room on this. The Republican Party in general worked for the dark money laws to be passed for a long time. Democrats screamed and cried about it. They tried to stop it. And Citizens United got passed. And you know what they did? They went out and figured out how to do it better than us. They found George Soros. They got their Bloombergs. They got every corporation in America, and they said, we're just going to do this better than the Republicans are doing it. And guess what? Now they do. And so this is kind of where it's in line with that conversation of like, yeah, I mean, you know, ballot harvesting, like we got to be better than the Democrats at all these things. And that requires leadership. So, you know, this is like the evolution. This is like the Star Wars saga is the way I bring it up, is because this is like, it's not like every episode here is like Tom and Jerry or like the Roadrunner and the Coyote where it's like the same thing every time we flip on the TV. This is progressive where there's chapters and bookends and, you know, one thing happens and we counter it, and this is a war. And we are losing the war on dark money now, and we are losing the war. They've used that dark money now to go after elections, and so yeah, this is a multifaceted front now. We need smart and intelligent leadership here that are going to fight these battles before we all get thrown in the pokey and they try to eliminate us altogether, because that's their goal, guys. I mean, their goal is single party rule. They want, rule by, a majority here in the country, because they can manipulate. They can manipulate voters easier than they can manipulate all these other people. So, I mean, that's what we're up against. That's why you have to have great leadership at the RNC. That's why you have to kick out these people. That's why you have to vote out your congressman. I'll tell you this, and Scott will say the same thing, is every person that complains, our first question is, well, are you a precinct committeeman? No. How many voters did you register this year? None. How many doors did you knock? Turning Point Action did, in all the key target states, 6 key target states, we did hundreds of door knocking events. And, thousands of people showed up, but it wasn't tens of thousands. It wasn't hundreds of thousands of people. It was maybe 10,000 plus altogether. Even were the same people doing it over and over again. So, I don't know what else to tell you, but, if you study Alinskyism and how they try to manipulate voters, if Alinsky has used to manipulate a majority of people, the only Achilles heel is not fighting Alinsky with Alinsky. You can't fight fire with this. The only Achilles heel to Alinskyites is spreading truth and building grassroots movements that spreads truth. That's the only way. The only way is to do that. And so the question you have to ask yourself when you look in the mirror is, am I doing my part in order to ensure that truth is being spread in my community, in my church, in my neighborhood, on my street? Because if America did this, this is kind of like the premise of 9/11. Why did everybody come together? Well, everybody was cognizant of what was happening after 9/11, regardless of all the different feelings around 9/11 and the war and everything else. Everybody came together after 9/11 because everyone was cognizant of Americanism. And so our Nazism has to be this Achilles heel, truth spreading Americanism. And if we can do that as a party, and unify people in every state, I mean, there isn't a state that we can lose. Now, on that same hand, that requires leadership. You have to unite you have to listen to the grassroots in order to make sure that everybody's happy and is working in the same direction. And we aren't doing that. If you think that a majority of people love Mitch McConnell as our leader, pass the smell test. The only way he gets in is money. That's it. Money is the only thing holding Mitch McConnell in his role as leader. That's it.
Hey, Millie Weaver, thanks for joining us on stage. We got a few more hands up there. Tyler, I couldn't have said it better myself. That was really amazing. Jesse, go ahead. You wanted to chime in quickly?
Yeah, I want to chime in real quick. I will say too, when you're looking around in the party, if you're part of the grassroots now, if you're looking around in the party for leadership, look for leaders that are not threatened by you. Look for leaders that want you to be the most effective, well-trained army of volunteers that you possibly can be. I've seen a lot of leaders in the GOP who feel threatened when competent people show up, from the local level all the way on up. And if you have leaders like that in the party who feel threatened by competence, we're going to be like effectively a suicidal party. We have to have leaders who are excited to have competent people around them, who want to find competent people, train competent people, and promote them. Because like Tyler was saying, if we have a bunch of door knocking events or a bunch of grassroots engagement opportunities and people show up and we only want people there to be worker drones, it's going to be ineffective. But we want people there who are strong voices for what they believe in, who know how to go out there and be effective. That's how we're actually going to go and win these elections in these states.
Most definitely. Nikki, I think you had your hand up. Go ahead, Nikki.
I did. It's kind of funny because following that question mine is sort of similar, and I didn't catch the very beginning of the show, but I have a huge concern over the dirty money and its influence over the Democratic Party. Like, for example, again, Soros, he owns so many prosecutors, DAs, etc., in like every problematic blue stronghold in our country. He and his dirty foundations are known across the entire world for his role in destabilizing countries and their economies. And he's played the long game for years. He supports the Justice Democrats, where the squad came from. He injects money everywhere he can, including support of, you know, domestic terrorists to cause divisiveness and destabilization. So, yeah, if we know he's doing this, how can we get rid of his dirty money, his foundations, his influence over elections, and including the machines? Um, Lord Mullock Brown, he put in charge of the Open Society Foundation, he was involved with Smartmatic for years. So, we can combat with all the stuff that you're talking about, but there's got to be a way to get rid of this guy he's not even a born citizen here.
Okay, well, hold on 1 second now. So you do have to realize that his wealth will be transferred to his son, and his son's much younger and probably even more liberal than he is. So,
Sure.
we're not going to have discussions about who should be breathing on this earth and who shouldn't be, but the discussion we're going to have is how do we overcome and overwhelm this, and how can we pull people away from that line of thinking, and that's really where you got to go with it. I wish we could stop George Soros from spending money in American elections. I don't agree with it whatsoever. If we could legislate again, that'd be fantastic. We've had Supreme Court rulings that discuss it as well, but this isn't something that you can just wish away or even executive order yourself away from. This is something that the Supreme Court has ruled on, really, and unfortunately, Soros, the Russians, the Chinese, and everybody else for that matter find ways to insert themselves into our political process through the current system. And we're going to have to probably re-examine things and see if we can find ways to tighten it up. But we definitely have issues. There's no doubt about that. Jesse, you got your hand up? Go ahead.
Yeah, on that point, Tom, I want to warn people against letting them win by default. So I've talked to a lot of Republicans who are really disenfranchised with Soros money, with Zuck bucks, with whatever, with all of the Democrat institutions that are stacked against us. The only way that they win and they overwhelm us is if we stop fighting. So don't think that this is hopeless just because they outnumber us in money, outgun us in money. Like Tyler said earlier, we have the truth on our side. We can outgun them with that, and we can organize at the local level, at the state level, at the national level to overcome this. Don't let them win by making them think that it's hope by letting them make you think it's hopeless.
Is it smart to go after DAs and prosecutors that have been installed by him and threaten censure if they are doing things like, not keeping people in jail or not investigating voter fraud or things of that nature? Does it help to go and just go
Absolutely.
after? Yeah, just go
Absolutely.
after. Okay.
At the local level, especially, Tyler mentioned it earlier, there is district attorneys races across the country, Commonwealth's attorney here in Virginia. Those are a lot of the time local races, and so it's overcomable, especially if you have somebody with a terrible record of, letting violent felons out of jail early and not notifying the victims like happened here. I mean, we won a lot of Commonwealth's attorney races here in Virginia because we made it clear this is what the Democrat Commonwealth's attorneys are doing. And with a lot of those local races, you can target those people and you can absolutely take them out.
Okay, thank you for your time.
And
I appreciate it.
Can I talk
Please, go ahead.
about really a strategic thing that we should put on everyone's radar? So, I mean, at this point, the biggest corporate organizations that hate us in the world are big tech, right? This is why big tech matters. This is why the Elon thing is so monumental, because just even if he comes in fair, are willing to talk to both sides, like that's like tons better than where we're at with Facebook and Google, right? So like we're in this space right now, Microsoft. We're in the space right now in Amazon where we have to you know what the biggest threat to these guys are? Antitrust laws in every state. And again, so this goes back. What if your RNC chair was badgering the RGA chair and our governors every single day about making sure that antitrust laws were passed that would level the playing field with how these Google and Facebook access and retrieve payments, and Apple retrieve payments in each individual state. Well, you know what that would do overnight? That would sit them the heck down on trying to pull all this crap behind closed doors, because they would immediately want to come to the table. But I mean, we should pass them anyways, because this is what's going to take away a lot of their power in each of these states. They're not going to be able to put up with not having Apple devices in Arizona, right? So once you pass antitrust laws in Arizona and make it so that it's not, Apple doesn't dominate just using the Apple Store on every app on their phones, or same goes with Google. That's a step in the right direction with leveling the playing field. But it's stuff like this that matters a lot, because again, we've just fed in and allowed this monster to kind of be created, and now they have a lot of influence, a lot of core influence, not out of Silicon Valley, but over corporate America in general. And this is part of the reason why we've seen the Chamber of Commerce just kind of go right off the cliff, and the Kochs have been complicit with that. But that's a big part of the reason why America so swiftly has gone so far left, and it's something strategically. I know that's kind of in the weeds a little bit, but that's something that, again, this is why this RNC position matters so much, because if the party chair, the last thing they want is the RNC chair coming out. Can you imagine if the RNC chair came out every single day and was like, yeah, I don't think Google and Apple should be able to control all payments on every phone in America, and it should be open. It should be open source. I mean, they would want to murder us all overnight, right? I'm probably going to get drone striked for just saying this on tonight on Twitter. So, like, I mean, I'm telling you, like, this is the strategic path forward for the movement if we want to fight back against all these specialty dark money dollars, because that's what's going to level the playing field. Being smart.
A quick follow-up question to that. Are there laws by state that say, like, let's say, for example, if Soros is living in New York or wherever under a rock he lives, just for an example, should somebody from an out of state residence be able to send money to another candidate that isn't in their district or isn't in their area?
Yeah, so every state's a little bit different, but let me tell you something that kind of piggybacks on what I was just talking about, so I can transparently make it clear on how this whole process works. So the reason why America has been so great is Article 4, Section 4 in the Constitution. If there's one article and section to keep in the entire Constitution, and you threw all the rest out, it would be Article 4, Section 4. The reason for that is because that promises a Republican form of government in every state. Well, why is that important, everyone, on the call tonight? Well, because the Republican form in every state, basically, that's what gives us our sovereignty in order to make laws and pass laws and make sure it's a representative republic, no matter what the federal government does. And so that's your stopgap against the federal government. That's your stopgap against corporations. That's your stopgap against anyone that tries to take away your individual rights, is the fact that you have a Republican form of government defending your individual rights in every state. That's the requirement, and that's the promise between the states and the federal government. Now, this is the most biggest danger to America, is that how this works is that when anybody at the legislature right now, and in Arizona we have 90 members of the legislature, they do anything that Apple doesn't like, they can basically limitlessly fund lobbyists to go down there and destroy that person's life. And these people are sweet people. They make $25,000 a year being down at the legislature. A lot of them spend a lot of time and energy. Some of them are retirees, and they get body slammed by lobbyists that limitlessly can be funded by Apple. And they can take these people on trips. They can do all sorts of things, like through subverse ways. Like, there's just a ton of stuff that they can do to make that person's life either really cool or really miserable. And this is essentially what they do in every state. And so that promise of Article 4, Section 4 is basically being molested by this entire massive big tech corporate oligarchy that exists across America, where they're able to basically send what I call the tax collector from like the sheriff of Nottingham to you and shake you down and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. That flies in the face from a constitutional standpoint in my mind. And that's why laws need to get passed that make it almost very difficult or impossible for lobbyists to be able to just freely take advantage of our Constitution of Article 4, Section 4. And that's part of what's going on. So I know that doesn't directly answer your question, but that kind of puts into perspective, the laws that need to get passed need to tighten down on lobbying. We need to make sure that former legislators can't become lobbyists. There should be lifetime bans for members of Congress to become lobbyists. This stuff overnight would basically put America, not perfect America, but put it back on the right track of what our founders intended when we first got. They would never have envisioned that there would be this whole awful whorish industry that exists that we have today.
Awesome. Thanks again for everything you do, and you drop me back down.
Thanks for that, Millie. You can go ahead. Millie, are you there?
Yes, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. So, I think it's important that we really understand the full situation going on here with social media, big tech, and how that really rolls into elections. Since through social media and technology, that's one of the main ways that we communicate information. We know that that has a very big impact on election outcomes. And that was one of the things that like Hillary Clinton and the Democrats were really upset about after 2016 because they got mad at how effective people were at getting out information such as the WikiLeaks drops, and that really kind of had an impact on the election results. So now fast forward into 2020, we saw how there was this really broad campaign across many big tech companies to shut down and censor speech. And that's what we're kind of seeing with these whole Twitter files leaks or dumps that Elon Musk and those from Twitter are now putting out. We're seeing that yes, they were shadow banning, they were censoring, they were blocking people in order to interfere with the election, and they were coordinating with the Biden team to do so against the sitting president. Now, it's also important to note here just how pervasive the problem of big data is. So, although we have a small win here with Elon Musk really kind of giving us this information so we aren't being gaslit anymore. They can't call us conspiracy theorists. We know, yes, they have been shadow banning, and yes, they were completely political bias, so we can state that for a fact. But one of the things that's also a big problem across the board is data collection. So they collect data from all these tech websites, and that's how most of these tech websites make their money, on big data. And third party companies buy up that data. They plug it into voting analytics predictive algorithms where they can literally 3D model out the election outcomes. They have it down to such a science where they can literally know how many votes are needed in what specific county live time. Okay, our phones, our electronics are all like little mini tracking devices. They can see who went to the poll, who went to the voting location on election night, who didn't. I mean, that type of data in the wrong hands is a definite powerful tool for them. So we have to look at, are we really going to be addressing the problems right now with big tech and their influence over elections if we're not really getting to all of the tools that they have at their discretion in order to, let's say, influence or rig elections, so to speak. And that's not even really getting into the bot farms where you have, you know, private third party companies who, bought software programs that were developed by the military to engage in psychological warfare operations overseas that now has been commercialized, and they're using it on social media to target specific audiences that they need to target in order to influence their minds to vote a certain way. I mean, when we see Elon talking about the bot problem, that is kind of one of the big things here. Why do they have the bots? Why are these massive bot farms so valuable? It's to target people and individuals on social media. So, I mean, there's kind of a multifaceted thing going on here when it comes to big tech and their interference in our elections.
Tyler, go ahead.
Really, I would just, so what I just said was, so first off, thank you for your efforts and your commitment to spreading truth and going after all the answers. One of the things that I think I've seen from the grassroots standpoint is I think most people now accept and have adopted on the left and the right that big tech is creepy, just like the big government, right? Like there was this whole thing during the Ron Paul years of like big tech is creepy. Big government is creepy. They're spying on you. Now we know big tech is creepy. They're spying on us. Now it's they sell data to foreign governments. I think most people understand all of this. They get it. I think they get it at the level that they need to understand it. The question is now is like, okay, what's the solution moving forward? How do we, put chess pieces on the board here that are going to be able to counteract that? And going back, we talk a lot about this stuff. We talk tons about it. We discover new information, which we have to keep doing. And that's why we have to make sure we keep Congress and, we need better leadership in who will do this. But again, antitrust laws have not been implemented in any state against these guys, right? Like we need warriors going forward. If you pass those things, we would start making movement here and progress to be able to say, hey, we're not just implementing these laws, but we're looking into you more, and we're spending more time looking into you, and we're creeped out by you, and here's all the things that we're going to do in order for you to do business here in the state of Arizona or the state of Texas or the state of Florida. I mean, Florida, Arizona, Arizona, they just had a trifecta for 8 years under Governor Ducey. Could have been doing this stuff. Texas, Florida, these big states where basically they can't afford to not operate in those states. Overnight, we could make massive differences. So that's just obviously one big solution. But those are the solutions that we need to be bringing forward with big tech. How are we going to actually start holding them accountable and go straight for the purse strings on them?
Right. I think that a lot of the problems can even be addressed in the private market as well, just by, supporting companies and other tech companies that value data privacy and security. They're not selling the data to third parties. All your information essentially isn't going to some third party firm that's going to be crunching the data and churning out their own voter analytics to try to find out what votes they need in what area to try to, rig or slant the election in their direction. So there's that element. But then I think the big problem is more people need to be aware just how much all their data, even just holding their phone, walking around with it, they can see your location. They know where your home is. They know what locations you frequent. Many of these apps in your phone, they listen to you throughout the day. They crunch that all and to text to speech, right? And then AI systems literally analyze that. That's why you're seeing ads being pushed at you for things you're talking about. So, I mean, people need to really fully understand what they're doing with that and that information, how powerful that is, so that they can realize, okay, we need to actually start, voting with our wallets or taking a stand and saying we demand data privacy.
Hey, so real quick, I just want to jump in here. So, as I've been running my race for Young Republican National Chair, and for those of you who have already heard me say this, sorry for everybody who's new here. I've been talking to people in different states in Young Republican leadership, and one of the things that's come up is this topic of how reliant the Republican Party structure is on big tech. So, I absolutely agree with Tyler. We need to be pursuing legislative solutions to this as well. But this is actually something we can lead on in the GOP right now. One of the things, I haven't put it on our campaign website yet, but one of the things I've been looking at doing is how we can build an open source infrastructure with technology that we use within the Young Republicans. So actually, if you look at a lot of Republican apps and software and different things that we use, like voter contact software, like Sidekick was really popular this year. In a lot of states, we're using Sidekick to make voter contacts. Sidekick uses Google data, right? It uses Google Maps. It's built on that system. A lot of our websites are hosted on AWS, right? So we're, as a Republican Party, ceding a lot of control to big tech to, at any time, kind of shut us off in our critical infrastructure. And one of the things we can lead on right now is to build infrastructure within the Republican Party based on open source solutions. That's doable. It's not very expensive because open source stuff does not require licenses. So people can come in and develop that, and we can use those tools. And that's something that we should do and lead by example to get people off of big tech platforms and reliance on big tech, even in small ways that people don't think about, like web hosting. That's something that we can provide solutions for within the party right now while we're working on legislative solutions.
Yeah, to your point, Jesse, like the RNC basically doesn't do that. I mean, I can tell you as a member of the RNC, I'm like one of the youngest members by probably an average of a couple decades, at least. Probably maybe 3 decades actually. I mean, I can tell you this is that we need to have basically like a Shark Tank application development, and we need padded, application bases here that can't be attacked or bought out by the left. And that just hasn't been done. I mean, I'm telling you right now, the left actually does this. The left has almost hundreds of applications that are developed, and they actually have more of a free market approach to how they consider those applications to help their business than the communist way that the Republican Party approaches them. And it's actually like heart-wrenching to watch, because you go in and it's like there's only a handful of consultants that really control all the purse strings of the Republican Party. And I would bring on any member of the RNC that wants to disagree with me on that, and I would say, oh yeah, well, let me take you through what the Democrat Party does. And that's part of the conversation I think that's opening up with this race. But again, that's the job of the RNC. Like, if we don't have the RNC doing that, then who's going to do it? I mean, most of the guys, like, no other organization has the hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially billions of dollars in capital to figure that out. And that's what we got. That's what we have to do. If we want to win, that is what we have to do.
Yeah, it is absolutely worth investing in technology that can't be canceled by the left.
Hello, may I speak?
Yeah, you have a question. Is it Intelligent? Is that it?
Yes, sir. I'm from LA, and I worked on a lot of people's campaigns. I managed a campaign for a state senate candidate and many state assembly candidates, and we got beat, as to expect it. Obviously, we're underdogs. But what I will say to his point, the infrastructure, the skeleton is not there, and so let's just pretend that we never get it back. We're going to have to build out other solutions. Otherwise, we'll never actually win, like, in any serious fashion. For a lot of time, social media, especially with younger people, we think, oh yeah, we're doing well on social media. Oh, look at all these followers and stuff like that. But that doesn't equate to the people who vote. Young people still don't vote yet. I mean, maybe somebody has the answer to that $1 million question, but it really doesn't translate into votes. So in terms of actually, building these things, how do you eat an elephant? It's ironic that the Republican Party has an elephant, but you eat it one bite at a time. Oh, I mean, for example, in LA, there's millions of people in LA County. So if every registered Republican just donated $1, I mean, we don't need millions and millions of dollars, but you'd have like at $1 million, and you could distribute that. There were basically just candidates that were left dying on the vine, and it was terrible. And I know that some people, they might think that the goal of the party isn't to necessarily fund candidates and stuff like that, but and it should only be left to the candidates. But I think that's a philosophical question that has to be done, and people do need to be brave and rise up and challenge that. Otherwise, it's never going to change. But like I said, make sure that you up in the on the jumbotron. One of them is start. You had to.
Hey, you're breaking up, man. Sorry.
Yeah. Why would you want Republicans to waste money on races in Los Angeles?
And honestly, everybody's paying a crap load of money for gas, but they don't know what to do. In LA, like everybody, wore a mask forever. Some people are still wearing masks. And if you tell them, hey, you don't have to, this is why, and keep telling them, they're not going to do it because people are creatures of habit. It takes about a month to build and break habits reliably. So it's all about knocking on.
Well,
hold on 1 second, Ben, if you can, and Tyler's going to respond. Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, let me respond to the first point that you made, because it's really important, because Scott Pressler brought this up earlier on the call here tonight, which is, or on the space here, I should say, is he said if we have to build this pack out because we can't trust the RNC is going to do it, and he's talking about a pack in order to go start doing ballot chasing, because the RNC should be doing it, but we can't trust the RNC is going to do it, so we're going to have to do it on our own. That means it's going to get developed on the outside. We're at the point now, at the juncture, where things that the RNC should be doing are going to start happening on the outside of the RNC, which is naturally what we're going to be doing. This is to answer your question, to put you at ease. As long as I'm around, as long as Scott's around, as long as Millie's around, everybody that's like commenting on here, we're going to start doing things on the outside. We're not going to wait around for the RNC to actually start doing these things, no matter if they listen or not. The problem that happens then is what happens, and this is kind of what's been happening with the Republican Party for the last 20 years, is all these things start getting built outside of the GOP, because the GOP is basically feckless and irresponsible and doesn't do anything of worth and value. And then you have these fiefdoms that develop, and these little kingdoms that end up getting gobbled up by really bad, stupid people like Karl Rove and others. And so then what happens is those guys just squeeze every bit of juice out of that for their own personal benefit. And it's actually, and where they started, which was a good place of doing something because the GOP wouldn't do it, ends up becoming this again, I hate using the whore of the earth, reference from the Bible of the church going off the rails, but it's the same thing, right? Which is they basically become unorthodox and lose all of their value system, or gets passed down to somebody else that becomes bad, like movie character bad, like eye patch and everything. No references there to anyone else, but then they become just really bad people. And that's the reason why the RNC should be strong. That's the reason why the precinct base should be strong, is that if you build all these things and you set it up, and you set a structure, I call it party discipline. If you have really strong party discipline and you have really strong recruitment and the precinct base and the voter base, then you don't have to worry about any of that. And then all of those elements are within the party, and their structure and leadership, and we're developing those things all on the same level playing field, and everyone's aware of them, and they're transparent, and they don't get put in the wrong hands. That's the problem where we're at right now, is that, everybody that wants to develop these things outside the party wants to make money quickly on these things, or wants to make money at some point in their life. And so they start maybe with a heart of gold, saying, I'm going to do this because the party's not doing it. Johnny Appleseed-esque, right? And then all of a sudden, they become this evil dictator because they've sucked up all this because the party wasn't doing
let's just say it. Karl Rove had really good intentions. He built the party up. He did a lot for the party. And then the Bush years came and went, right? But, I mean, he's responsible. People that were around him at the time, they're responsible for creating what installed Bush. And those people are no longer here, and they don't care, and they've taken their money and run with it. And there's not as much ground activity and grassroots activity going on that we used to have.
I'll tell you this right now, many of the people that helped out in the SoCal political space were all volunteers and they weren't getting paid. So I know there's a fear of that, but you have to just pretend as if you don't have your structural skeleton, because otherwise you're going to expect somebody else to do something, and we're all adults, like we have to take responsibility for it.
Most definitely. I want to go to Daniel. Daniel, you've been waiting patiently. Go ahead. If you got a question, comment for Tyler, go ahead, please. Daniel.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, it's kind of beautiful the way what I've been thinking about while everyone's talking, the direction this went, and how I'd like to just tie it in really quickly. Sorry if I'm not as articulate as everyone else. I don't have a way to inject money into our party, but I do have ideas. I do have my voice, which is also a form of currency. So, from what I'm hearing, there's a few ways we can get more votes the next election. It's get more people from our party to vote, get more people who don't vote to vote, and then, in my opinion, and there's obviously money, but then, in my opinion, there's a third one that not too many folks talk about too often, and it's how do we, I'm watching it happen right before my eyes in New York, and I'll mention that after this. How do we get people who are like center left but closer to center over to right of center? And I'm witnessing this happening here in New York. I live about 1 hour north of Manhattan, and there is a town that I grew up in that they now call Little Brooklyn. People from Williamsburg, Brooklyn, found this little town and they came up there. They started opening businesses. They Many of them, I would imagine, had businesses down there and weren't happy with the draconian policies in the city. And I imagine this is happening all over the country and started moving out of the city up into the more rural, reddish areas. So this could go one of two ways. And a lot of people where I live, um, Republicans, just dog them and say they're going to take over our politics. And my take would be, how do we get those people who are up here enjoying the less draconian measures when it comes to businesses, taxes? Because I live in like a 50-50 sort of county, but you don't really see people walking around with masks too much anymore. Once in a while, you'll see a guy driving by himself in a car with a mask on, but it's very rare, and it has been for a while now. So, like, I know several people who voted Democrat their entire life who, based on all the draconian measures that were taken in New York because of COVID and just the disastrous policies of the current administration and many other reasons, are voted red this year. And Scott has spoken to what Lee Zeldin did in New York. We flipped a couple states, but there's like a lack of the leadership being vocal about, like, instead of taking such hard lines, right? Finding out how we can, from these bully pulpits, talk directly to these people and find commonalities with them. And that's where, like, currency as my voice and the ideas that I have can be more valuable than even money.
Well, you can start by telling people at schools, parents, right? This is what's happening to your kid. For example, in California, parents don't even have rights anymore to know what actually is happening to their kid. Teachers are allowed to keep secrets from the parents. So that's one of the things that I did for a state senate candidate. I stood outside of a school. It was raining even on election day. Got rained on. Told parents. Hopefully it mattered. But that's one thing you can do: is find a school and start talking to the parents.
Yeah, but I'm speaking more to like businesses, right? So there's several people. I'm a small business owner. I'm doing a lot of work for these folks that are coming from the city up here. They're buying houses, not just one. They're Airbnb-ing them. They're flipping them. They start a business, and they they have this view that all Republicans are racist. They hate Trump. I talk to them. I try to tell, and then you know what? This one in particular person I'm speaking about, within a week or two of talking to the guy, he came to me and said, you know, these Democrats, and we joke around, he said, these Democrats here in New York really hit me hard in the pocket. I think I'm going to start voting Republican. But like, we're friends, you know, we're friendly with each other. And I'm seeing something that not a lot of people seem to be talking about. I'd like to hear what Scott and Tyler might have to say about this. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you right now, there is a big change that's happening across the country. We're seeing it in the Midwest. We're seeing the Hispanic community. We're seeing it in places. My father-in-law owned all the Five Guys in upstate New York. So I think you're in a different area. I think you're probably just up from the city, but
No, I'm in
I'll
Dutchess
tell
County.
you. Okay, yeah, is that White Plains area?
No, it's about 45 minutes north of White Plains.
Oh, there you go. So, I mean, I can tell you this, and this is where it matters, you know, and this is the reason why Democrats, like the evil Democrats, are trying to do everything they possibly can to pass ranked choice voting, is because they know it's only so long that they can maintain power in some of these places before people figure it out. And they know that in America, it's probably not likely they're going to be able to seize the means of production in some of these places and do all of that. So what their newest trick, and this is what's really important. This is probably deserves its entirely own Twitter space, is to talk about ranked choice voting and why it's so bad in the places where it's been passed. Well, they want to completely dominate and keep out anyone like Lee Zeldin from ever having a shot for running for governor, because that screws everything up for them. They want to have control over every election, and if you don't know about ranked choice voting, I really implore you to look into it. But this is the new battle that we're going to be fighting for the next 10 to 15 years, is not just redistricting and controlling the districts, which they've done as almost as perfectly as they possibly could in New York and other places, Illinois, other places where they've been trying to dominate that. Now they have to change how people vote, down to manipulating, you know, the automatic runoff rules and everything else. And again, there's no way that we'll ever win an election ever again in a deep blue state, and we'll lose to Democrats very quickly in even deep red states like we saw in Alaska by allowing that to happen. So that's something to be
So
defensive
Tyler,
of now.
Sorry, buddy. Prodigal has even spoken about this, and I'd like to just say one more time. There's literally a mass exodus of people from all I can speak for is my own state, from New York City to rural areas. When I say max exodus, I mean in the past 3 years, three bedroom homes, 2,000 square foot homes that were 250, 300,000 are now 550,000. So
Yep.
mass exodus, bro.
Yep. Yeah, and this is why ranked choice voting matters so much. And again, not to get too into the weeds here for everybody, but so what's basically happening, not to oversimplify it, because it's happening here in Arizona. Arizona basically is the same thing that's happening to California is happening in upstate New York. It's happening with the city. Is they want you to live in the city. Well, why do they want you to live in the city? Because they can control your vote. They can with COVID, they can shut you down. They can control you. Well, they can't control you if you're on a farm. They can't control you if you own your own house. They can't control you if you're out there. And people are liking living outside of the city, and they're realizing it, and their eyes are opening. And COVID kind of had that unintentional thing here. But at their heart, a lot of these people still report to people, their jobs and everything else, to people in the city. And in Arizona, they still report to people in California. And so, they're changing, and their heart's changing, and they're realizing it over time. And so what the Democrats are doing now, and they're realizing that what some people call the uniparty, is realizing like, hey, we can't let these people all of a sudden become more conservative and embrace it. We have to hurry and get on this and manipulate and change how we do elections and how we change everything in this country, particularly around elections, in order to ensure that we still have some kind of institutional control over these people. And that's part of the reason why you're seeing some of that happen now, I believe, in these states, is because of that very reason.
So Tyler, instead of playing defense and saying we need to stop ranked choice voting, because I hear a lot of that, I'm speaking more to the how do we take advantage of this? I see it as a golden opportunity for my area where I live, my community, or it's either going to go one way or hard the other way. And I see it as an opportunity to really even just on a person to person level, like, hey, we're not assholes. Like we're Americans, and take advantage of this. Because I'm talking about there's probably 1 million people injected into my community in the past 2 years.
Well, I'll tell you what. This is getting way into the weeds, and I don't want to take too far off course here, but this is part of a reason why I'm a big believer in making sure that you're getting involved at the local level on the city council and school boards, because this is the exact reason, but it's deeper than that. It's your planning and zoning commission. It's your planning commission, right? Do you know these people? Who are these people? Well, why does that matter? Well, I'll tell you why it matters. They want to build up each of these little cities. This is kind of what happened in Michigan to a certain extent. Is they built some of these smaller cities that were spread out on top of each other. And what ended up happening with like Grand Rapids outside of Detroit was they built up and not out. And if there's one simple way that one simple admonition I could give is the Republican Party should be the party of building out and not up. That means, taking land back in the West from the Bureau of Land Management to give people life, liberty, and not just the pursuit of happiness, but land, what this country is founded on. You want to know why this country was founded the way it was? People had their own stuff, and they were able to defend it by themselves. And so, if we can instill those values with people that are coming out of the city, and we could do that quickly, I think that we have better chances of basically converting them to our way of life and our way of thinking. But again, if they're moving outside the city to an outer part and they're still living in a zero lot and they don't have their own stuff, they're renting, and they're not understanding what life is like, and your city council is passing and building up, and all of a sudden building all these 10-story buildings in your little town. Guess what? You just reintroduce all of that to your little town. So that's what, to me, again, not to get too far off here, but that's what we as a party need to be doing. Is we need to be the party of life, liberty, and land. We need to be giving everybody as much. I got in a big debate with somebody about this not too long ago, which is Arizona has a huge percentage of this state is controlled by the federal government. That's why I was so excited about Carrie Lake becoming governor, because she was willing to step up against the Bureau of Land Management, take some of the land back, and figure out how we were going to do that. And then, offer it to people coming from across the border and saying, hey, why don't you do something with this? We want to invite people to, reinvigorate some of those feelings of being just like a number for a corporation, but come over here and do something like our founders intended. Own something, put your hands on it, till the ground, build something. That's what America is all about. That's what we're losing. Build a business.
Hell yeah, man. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, Tom, just real quick, man, one more thing, and I'll be done. I apologize. Tyler, I really like what you're saying. And when you say get into the weeds too much, I'm not so sure what I know what you mean by that. But we have guys like ALX in the audience. There's guys like Benny Johnson. There's you. There's people who have a voice in our party. And my whole point, I guess, is I don't have that big of a voice. Grassroots level is something I'm going to do, right? And my voice will grow. But how about I'd like to encourage people who have this pulpit, who have this voice, to try to find more commonality between us and them as Americans and speak directly to people in another party and bring them over. Because voice is currency, and I think it's more valuable than money.
You make some really good points, Tyler. I think when we look back in history, when we saw a lot of these families abandoning their farms and their land, which they lived off and tilled on, that was really around the time of the Great Depression. And it was from over farming. And so, that's when you had the Dust Bowl, you had these people not being able to survive anymore economically after the crash happened. So many people actually abandoned their land, they abandoned their farms, and they moved to the cities to try to get jobs or get in the breadline, so to speak. So I think that we're still kind of dealing with the ramifications of that. You might have people who are generations, just a couple generations away from those families who lost everything in the 20s. But yeah, I think that it would be interesting if more people started going back towards land ownership and moving out of the city. It would give them a lot more self sufficiency, independence. But see, the Democrat Party doesn't want that. They want people in the bread line. Now, another point, when we're talking about redistricting and whether we think we can win some of these blue cities and blue areas, just coming from myself as someone who, I lived in Los Angeles a lot of my life. And I really kind of got red pilled away from being more of a liberal minded person into a conservative while still living in Los Angeles. And what that boiled down to was me actually being given the truth, being shown the truth. So a lot of these people just need the truth. And if you look at 2016, the majority of the people who actually voted for Trump, who won him the 2016 presidential election, those were former Obama voters. So we can win their votes back. I think that we have to analyze and really look at how the political landscape has kind of shifted. Why did Trump start to lose some of those Obama voters, and how can he win them back? I think that's really what we need to start focusing on.
Yeah, and I just want to add on one thing really quick. So I work a lot on engaging people who are under 40. I know Tyler works on engaging younger people as well. And to the point that he made earlier, and Millie, that you made as well, if we're talking about trying to reach out and engage people who don't agree with us, who are in the younger demographic, it is really, really hard to do that if they are single, not invested in anything, they live alone in an apartment in the middle of a city. They are unmoored from everything around them. And it is really, really hard, honestly, to get them to buy into a vision of America that they've never experienced. So, one of the things that I really think that we need to do more within the Republican Party is encourage solutions for property ownership for younger people, whether that's home ownership or land ownership or opening businesses or whatever it is. I mean, right now we have companies like BlackRock coming in and buying up houses in major numbers. I was just reading the other day about some AI algorithms that are basically buying and listing or buying and renting properties around the country. So, like, this is what we're combating from these major global companies. And we need to find some actual policy solutions that we can advocate for on the right. That will make property ownership more possible for individuals, especially for younger people who are first time home buyers, and instead of favoring major global corporations, which is what we're doing now in our real estate market.
Yeah, I mean,
Jessica, I think it's millennials and boomers. That's just my opinion from what I see. Those are the ones in my neighborhood, at least in New York here, who are on the fence. The ones who already have businesses and are got hit hard. I'll be quiet now.
It's okay. I want to go to Lou, if you don't mind. I know you got your hand up and you got to leave. Lou, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Tom. So, real quick, I want to thank everyone for participating tonight. This has been a fabulous space. For myself, being an Arizona voter, having had Tyler, thank goodness, driving across the desert tonight has been phenomenal. And I hope that he will start to maybe do some regular Arizona like spaces. But a couple of things I just wanted to touch base on was the first thing was we do now in each 27 locations have a Republican in the recount center, so that's good. The other thing that I saw was that Carrie Lake had actually um, been interviewed by Rachel Alexander for the Arizona Sun Times about some of the election fraud in her case. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting was that there was a 90% mismatch in signatures, but it had been kind of blocked as if it was possibly fraudulent information, meaning that you couldn't retweet it, you couldn't like it, you couldn't comment. And so Kerry actually screenshot it and sent it to Elon, and Elon came back and said yes, that he thought that it was reasonable criticism, that it wasn't inciting any violence or going against any deception. And so, with that being said, here's my question for anybody who wants to answer in general. But is do you guys feel like we have not necessarily been able to fairly be able to give our side or be able to present our case or our policies or our outlook to the other side because of the fact that mainstream media, all of the tech companies, all of the social media has been kind of built against us, that now with these Twitter files, that there is a possibility or crack in that armor or an opening for us to be able to maybe gather more into our fold now that we are seeing the actual proof that the things that we've been saying for the last 2 or 3, 4 years is now being documented with information showing that they did do this, they did shadow ban, they did suppress and de-amplify and downright ban people for things that were valid, and not only in the political sphere, but also to go as far as into say with COVID and what that has done and risks and harm it has caused people maybe in their family, including up to somebody's death because some of those treatments were suppressed. So, yeah, if anybody wants to say anything, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
What was the question exactly, Lou? If you could restate it.
So do we think that now that the Twitter files are being dumped, that we have a better opportunity to reach out to the other side, to some of these younger people who are on social media, who are now maybe being able to see, hey, there's things out there that have been going on that with the tech companies that now maybe there we didn't get all
Yeah,
those
so I'd
things.
say the more transparency, obviously, the better, right? And there's always going to be a group of people that don't want to see this for what it's worth. They'll ignore it. They'll pretend it doesn't exist. They'll say, "Oh, hogwash," and go join Mastodon and go jump in an echo chamber, I guess. But for the people that recognize that Elon Musk is not some kind of right wing extremist and that he's actually performing a service for the public, and in the future, especially down the road here, I think people will be able to see this for what it is, and it'll help sway quite a few voters. I think the explosion of this platform, what Elon's doing by coming into spaces, and just hanging out and taking questions and answers and doing everything he can to invigorate this platform and obviously drawing more advertiser dollars for him, which is a good thing. He paid $44 billion. What's the ROI on that? How long is that going to take? But I think every single penny was worth it. There's no price that's too much for freedom of speech and to get our elections back. And so I think people that are educated more and more about the election system, if we can catch them when they're 18, when they're young, when it's time for them to vote, and we know these are in churches, they're in high schools, they know that we're in places, getting them when they're young, when they know they're conservative, and get them involved. So if they do go to off to college, they won't lose their conservative ways, or if they do go off to technical college, that they realize they need to vote. And it doesn't matter if you're not in a political science class at Texas A&M like I was my freshman year. If you're sitting learning how to weld or sitting on a offshore platform, you need to be registered to vote too. These are the people that are going to win us elections in the future. It's not these elitists and their abortion defending Planned Parenthood proponents. We have to go after a new set of voters. This is what we're faced with. Scott Tressler, though, you got your hand up, and your co-host. I want to go ahead and go to you next. Scott, go ahead.
Well, I agree and disagree. I do concur that it was the Obama-Trump voter that won us the election in 2016. And so it's important to understand, why those voters were choosing Donald Trump after, in some cases like Iowa, voting for President Obama twice. And I think part of it is going to come down to messaging. And we haven't done a great job of presenting a hopeful message for the future, because that's what it was. It was about hope and change. Both of the candidates were change candidates. And I hate to say it, but if we continue to focus on the past without presenting articulated policies that are going to provide for a hopeful future, I don't see us being successful in 2024. And I don't think that we should necessarily be in persuasion mode. Yes, we need to continue to put out the truth to people, but I always use myself as an example. Could I be persuaded to vote for Stacey Abrams or Kamala Harris? No, there's no way I would ever vote for those two candidates. But I will tell you what we need to do is focus on the white working class in Montana, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Louisiana. Those are all going to be important races, not only in 2023, but also if we want to maintain the Senate or add to the Senate majority that we'll have in 2024. Montana's going to be up, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Michigan. And our focus needs to also be just on turnout. It's a numbers game. Our people have stayed home. We need to analyze why our people have stayed home. And so I've been invited by a couple gun shows. I'm going to be teaming up with them across the country to do voter registration. Yes, I realize that some of them are going to already be registered to vote, but that's our base. And it's in the importance of enclosed primary states like Pennsylvania that we make sure they are registered as a Republican, so then we can be choosing the correct candidate that is going to lead us to victory in 2024. But again, the main point is not necessarily persuasion, but growing the electorate based on people that are with us who are not registered, and or how can we motivate them to actually vote in 2024.
Correct, Amundo. Thank you, Scott, for that. I'm going to go back to hands real fast. Blake, do you have a question for Tyler?
Hey, Tom. No, I don't have a question. I just kind of wanted to be invited up and flex some of my receipts and say that essentially that this conversation is extremely refreshing. Um, I'm a third generation farmer from the Imperial County dealing with clean water issues at scale. And essentially, it's what I've joined Twitter for. And I've been at the forefront of calling out big tech censorship, the forefront of antitrust issues, the forefront of the majority of this entire conversation, essentially. And I just wanted to come up and say that I appreciate you guys joining the conversation.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, Blake. Hope to see you back in our spaces. And if you have got some questions for us anytime in the future, feel free to come back up, man, and we'll talk. Derek Evans, you're a J6 Patriot, former member of the West Virginia House, and a conservative Christian. Thank you, Derek, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Tom. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was a J6 political prisoner. I'm out of prison now. So I just wanted to say people like Scott have done more for the conservative movement than the RNC leadership has ever done. And as a candidate, someone who's ran for public office, I can tell you there's a major distrust with the RNC amongst Republican voters. And I can use an example of that. I have multiple people who tell me I will not donate to your campaign or to you or whatever through Win Red, because they do not want the RNC to get a hold of their money or even a small portion of that. So that tells you what kind of big distrust there is. And I can tell you that I would personally be a lot more willing to donate to a PAC that Scott Press or someone like that I trust is running than I would to the RNC. As everyone has said, the messaging sucks in every way possible. There was actually a study done that 60-something% of college students believe the word conservative is tainted. They feel bad when they hear that word conservative, and that's a problem that we're going to have to overcome. Back to the messaging, I can tell you while I was in prison, I spoke to multiple inmates, and I kind of did a survey, if you will, on them without them, really realizing, just asking questions. And you ask them if they're Democrat or Republican, they say Democrat. But then you ask them, do you trust the government? Do you believe in bigger government, or do you believe in smaller government? And every single one of them align with the Republican platform in terms of smaller government, because they went through the system. They don't trust the government, but they get out and they all go vote Democrat. So that's a once again, there's so much low hanging fruit out there that we could capitalize on, such as FF. You guys are talking about farming and everything. We got to push FFA in schools. Studies prove that people who are involved in farming and everything are naturally more conservative. That's how we get a hold of our youth in a lot of these states, is pushing the FFA funding and everything in the school system. Before I go, I got a question for Scott. I know that he is really big on everything, and I know you've been saying that you're going to start teaching states how to ballot harvest, and which I think is amazing. That's what we need to be doing in those states. I disagree with it, but if that's the rules we're playing by, we got to get good at it. So my question is, do the Democrats, when they're doing this ballot harvesting, are they targeting mainly elderly voters who might not make it to the polls? Are they targeting the zeros, the ones, and the twos, the people who are less likely to vote? Or have you kind of figured out what their strategy is on that? Because I don't think it really make a whole lot of sense. Maybe I'm wrong, to go out and harvest ballots from the threes and fours, the people who are most likely to show up on election day anyways. Have you looked into that yet, by any chance?
I can't answer the specifics on what the Democrats are doing. If anybody has more information, please offer it. But if I were running a campaign and I were testing in preparation of 2024 by using 2023, then I would mail out an absentee ballot request form to every voter within my district who's conservative, that's of 65 years plus. And then what we can do is find out from the data of them voting in the 2023 election in like Louisiana, how many of those actually voted. And then we can test also our absentee ballot chasing and or ballot harvesting, which is legal in the state of Louisiana. You're limited to one, but it's still, ballot harvesting is legal with limitations. And that needs to be the goal. Test out different variations of absentee ballot voting in the 2023 election. And if people have money to burn, I would send it out to every single person, because you're going to have a lot of college students too, right? That are going to college and they may be registered to vote in Pennsylvania, but they're going to school in Cali. They're absolutely going to need an absentee ballot request. And it will give us the opportunity to chase. But like I said, regardless of what happens with the RNC, we are going to be working on an ABEV, meaning early voting pack outside of the GOP. And the people that I've spoken to, I'm not going to release any information just yet, but they basically want me and this other person to be the face of the organization. So we're going to get the job done, whether or not the GOP is going to do it themselves.
Woohoo! That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. Andy P, you got your hand up. Are you ready? Do you have a question?
Yeah, hey guys, you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hey, so my name is Andy. I work as a paramedic here in Pima County, Arizona. And my question is for Tyler in the RNC. Our GOP here in Pima County is kind of a joke. If you go to their social media, they basically look like a social club to play bingo on, one night a month or something like that. So what is the RNC going to do? Do they have a strategy to empower local county GOP chapters to, I guess, do better? Like, I've never had a person knock on my door since 2016 asking if I'm a Republican and would I vote. And then my second quick question is, I think like all the political discussion is great, but I think it was like John Adams who said our Constitution is for moral and religious people. And so if we don't change the hearts of conservatives and liberals across the country, how are we going to instill conservative policy? And I guess what's the RNC's strategy to change the heart of the everyday American. Thank you.
Before Tyler jumps in, I'm just going to make a pitch real quick. If your county party is not doing its job, go join it and take it over.
Couldn't agree more with you on that one. Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say this. I mean, I don't think that the RNC is doing a lot of basic stuff that it should be doing, much less getting into the cultural issues. I mean, we're at the heart of what you're talking about is basically what people have referred to as the culture war, and this is really what the basis of the battle is, right? Which is that we're losing our sense of identity as Americans in general. Much less getting into the deeper cultural aspects of what makes us truly American. And what makes us truly American is this inherent observance of the Constitution as God given, and that our rights are God given, and understanding kind of the basic premise of America is that God gave us life, God gave us liberty, God gave us land. That's why we're here on this earth, and we have the right and ability to that. And again, that kind of goes kind of piggybacks on what I was talking about earlier with Daniel, was that it's like, look, we've got, that's like the basic, the way that I kind of look at it, I did say this earlier, was anything that the left wants to do, it's just the easiest thing to do for those of us that are newcomers, and it should be easy for the RNC to do too, is just do the exact opposite. So if they want us to all move into the city and they want to take away something from us, or they want to force us to take something or give it, like, my natural inclination is just to do the immediate opposite of that. And you're probably on the right track. And obviously I'm being a little bit sarcastic, a little bit facetious, but not really, because we're at that stage in America now where that's what they've done, right? They're like very transparent on what they want to do, how they want to control us, and culturally what they want to destroy. That's why the whole issue, remember, around statues being taken down. I mean, it wasn't any mistake that they were like yanking down statues. Everything here has been implemented by strategy, and that's, again, I'm a Yankee. My family came over on the Mayflower and pioneered across America from upstate New York, and then ultimately across the Midwest and into Arizona, and helped found Arizona. And so, like, I am very much like, I don't care about a lot of Southern culture. I just don't, because I'm a Yankee. But I do have a deep, profound, immediate respect for history and the fact that, like, we shouldn't be tearing things down. And if you really study the Russian Revolution, which is what I've done in my life, that's what I got my degree in, and I speak fluent Russian. And even though I'm a multi-generation American, I can tell you this, is that if you study the Russian Revolution, you will see very, very quickly in that one specific unique example in world history of what they did to implement Marxism. And almost anywhere where they try to implement Marxism is they try to eradicate history. They try to take your family away from you. They try to make you valueless. And so all of these things that we know are happening to attack us culturally are things that we should be leading on in the RNC. And going back, that's why I support Harmeet, is because she's actually in the middle of this cultural battle, fighting. I mean, that's the reason why the Republican Party should have this army of lawyers are protecting our civil liberty, because at the end of the day, that is the cultural battle that we're fighting. And we organically will be able to have conversations about that. But when we're not doing that work, and we're sending people 1,000 emails over and over telling us how disappointed we are that they didn't re-up on their 15th gold Trump card, and we missed the opportunity to have dinner with Mike Pence, or Ted Cruz wants to join us for vacation in Mexico. Like, I'm telling you, these are the things that are ultimately turning people off in a way, because that's not what you want. That what you're saying you want is, you want the Republican Party to defend American culture and values. And that's how we are, like you said, the quote is that's what makes the Constitution work. That's what makes our country work. And you're exactly right. And that's exactly what we're losing, they're trying to destroy.
God, I hate to interrupt, but I just came out of an Athenian space. Those are always so fantastic. Usually you go into a political space and it's a little bit of a letdown, but that was the fucking greatest speech I've heard in spaces in like a couple of months. Tom, record that and snap it out.
Athenian.
Can I add one last just comment on I think it was Jesse that responded to me first. You said to get involved and become a PC or whatever, but I think there's some of us that wonder if we actually have the skill set or knowledge to actually be effective in that.
Oh, I
And
guarantee you do. Like seriously, if you are interested in getting involved at the local level, I will personally be happy to help you to figure out what you need to do if you get elected to that. I would guarantee if it's a lot of older folks in that committee, they're going to be really excited to have somebody younger show up who wants to do stuff, and they're probably going to put you to work immediately, and you're going to be able to take a leadership position pretty quickly. So I would be happy to talk with you more anytime about what kind of skills you're going to need to do, take on specifically. Tyler's obviously involved in Arizona and can tell you a lot of the Arizona specific stuff and get you connected with people out there. But it is, don't be scared. It's a lot easier than you think. You can jump in and get involved really easily, and it's all learnable.
All right, well, send me a DM or something so that I can reach it.
Definitely. John Hayner, are you there, sir?
Yeah, I am, sir. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so please forgive me. But I'm here in Gwinnett County, Georgia. And yes, we just had the runoff. The biggest thing that I seen for that was people not going back and voting. I got my wife, my family, probably about 10 people in my family can vote. And unfortunately, I was the only one that went back and voted. So it's kind of, you guys were talking about turnout, we couldn't get the turnout. That's part of the problem. And then the other thing that I'm seeing around here is like in Lawrenceville, Georgia, they're trying to do it here in my town. They're building these big, tall apartment complexes right in the middle of town, taking out businesses and putting in this big apartment complexes that probably has 300, 400, 500 units to it. And I've seen in the 13 years that I've lived in Gwinnett, I've seen it turn from being red to turning blue. They're taking these little towns and putting these big apartment complexes in to get all the voters to make it more like Atlanta. And then the other thing I saw last summer, and I don't know if anybody else has seen this type of stuff, but last summer we had everybody and their brother selling their houses. I own my own house. I've owned it now 13 years. In my sub, I would say probably 7 houses were sold. Not a single one of those houses were sold to people. They were all sold to Open Door, Mark Spain, which I didn't know until after the fact. Mark Spain actually uses Open Door when they buy houses. So basically it was all bought by Open Door. Well, then you find out Open Door is owned by BlackRock. 2 of the houses, which are directly across the street from me, one sold about a year ago, the other one sold about 6 months ago. Right prior to the first election, the primary, both of them were rented, and then the people disappeared. They came back about 2 weeks prior to the general election, and then disappeared again. And then they came back for the runoff, and they've been gone ever since the runoff. If you look at the plates on both of their vehicles, both of their plates are California plates. So it's kind of weird. I don't know if that's something that's normal, if that's something that, has been happening and people have been noticing it, but that's what I've noticed in my little, section of the town. Anybody else ever seen anything like that?
Can you say where you are roughly?
I'm in Loganville, Georgia. That's where I actually live, is Loganville, Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, can I say what? And then I have to hop off, so I apologize because I have to get on a phone call here, with some folks. But let me tell you what I've seen in Arizona, and this is, despotism at its finest. we have this issue that's happening all across the country, which is this is the reason why I brought it up. If there's one thing you could do, it's go get on your planning and zoning commission and set height restrictions to buildings. Like if you did that for your city, you'd save your city. And we should do that. We should make sure that we don't have um, anything outside of commercial buildings going over 3 or 4 stories. 3 stories, 2 story. That something where you have to get very specialty permits for this stuff. Like that's what America was. I mean, America was like ranch houses, 2 stories, 3 stories, maybe like if you're really rich, but outside of that, like everything else should be commercial, right? So, like if you could get on your planning and zoning commission and get that done, you probably save your city, you save America. But what we've seen in Chandler and Scottsdale, why has Arizona flipped? Well, if you watch the Charlie Kirk show and our stuff, I keep talking about the Tomahawk, and it's a space within relatively suburban Phoenix, but it's like urban suburban Phoenix now. It's like gentrification zones, and then also some spaces too where we have some urban decay, and it's happened there or some turnover. But these areas are areas that are fairly conservative. But what's happened in recent years is there's some nicer areas in these parts that are gentrified, that are in Ahwatukee, that are in Paradise Valley, Scottsdale area, Chandler, South Chandler. And I bring this up because it's very similar to Georgia. They've started building a lot more complexes there. They started inviting in people from across state lines. And this is why I kind of I talked about, like, I kind of bust the chops of Andy Biggs, who's one of our best. But it's like Intel opens a huge new plant and they hire a bunch of international folks and people from California. Or, we had this tech corridor that opened in Chandler that opened up a bunch of jobs from Silicon Valley. Well, they weren't hiring Arizonans. What were they doing? They've got a gold shovel out there digging for the Chamber of Commerce photo. They're bringing in 100, 200, 500 people from Silicon Valley. Well, guess where their bosses are? Silicon Valley. Their bosses are still in San Jose. Their bosses are still in San Francisco. And so, like, are they likely going to be changing their political ideology overnight just by moving to Arizona? No, the way that they view Arizona is it's despotism here. It's what I call commercial despotism, or where the headquarters still resides in California, but now they've moved here and they have an easier lifestyle. They're not changing their politics. They're still answering to a Californian who is still filling their mind with utter trash and filth. So what should we be expecting when people move their businesses here? If you move to Arizona, you have to hire Arizonans. That should be the minimum baseline for coming here. Two is we just shouldn't be introducing all these people, necessarily and unnecessarily, to Arizona without some kind of counterbalance. Again, with people having their own land and their own space. People moving to Arizona, usually what they're doing here in Arizona is they're bringing in their low tier, $50,000 to $75,000 a year jobs to Arizona, and they're offloading that. And so these people are moving where they're living, like, basically like in like the worst possible place ever in San Jose or around there. They're living like in the outskirts. They're living in bad places. They can't afford anything. And then they move here, and guess what? They move into just a nicer apartment. They're not buying a house. They're moving just into a nicer apartment. And it
You're
goes
getting the
to speak
H-1Bs
to
as
what we
well.
had
So
talked about, which is this whole concept of land and ownership and all of that. If you're moving into gentrified neighborhoods that are 3, 4, 5 story tall apartment complexes or bigger, you're not actually learning that concept of America. And so we've got to move people into these spaces in different parts. When we invite them in, especially we hire them in, we've got to have those conversations and then try to say, hey, instead of living in the same type of a place, maybe just a little bit nicer, why don't you try going and owning your own house, your own property, all this stuff, like make that available to them. And that's why Arizona stayed so red for so long. That's why Georgia stayed so red for so long was because those are communities where there was land and there was space and you could spread out, but we're coming to we're at that time in history now where we're running out of that space, and they're doing everything they can to try to build it up. And that's what you're seeing in Gwinnett. That's what we've seen in Chandler. That's what's happening.
Thanks, man. Hey, Tyler, do you have time for one more question from Michelle? Can you squeeze one in? Michelle, can you make it really fast?
Hey, I just want to give props to what Tyler is saying. I also want to say that I shared in the nest just today, after Tom, your share is that Charlie had on uh, James Lindsay and Michael O'Fallon from Sovereign Nations. I really think that in listening to you, Tyler, didn't know anything about you till I watched on the election. But I'm a Christian, and I've been wondering what happened 20 years ago. We were seeing our churches stick up for, they were actually involved in the culture war. Now it's more in vogue to be out of the culture war. And I wondered what happened. And I think it's really this issue of Marxism. And I think we really have to develop language that is hitting exactly what you were talking about, Tyler. Talking to them about where this goes from here. This doesn't go anywhere good. These kids, I mean, even my 18-year-old has been influenced by the messaging. So I just wanted to throw that out there and put in a plug, and maybe you can, I don't know if you have a quick comment about that. I want to let you go though.
Yeah, Dr. James Lindsay's big on this topic that we're discussing actually right now, and he's a good dude. He'll be at America Fest. So plug, we have America Fest coming up in Phoenix next week. So catch it online. You can watch it all weekend long. We're gonna have a big opening session next Saturday with Tucker Carlson, and we have a couple big concerts here in Phoenix. So if you know anyone that's in Phoenix, if you want to come down to Phoenix, we got plenty of places to stay. 4 days, Saturday through Tuesday next week. It's the largest event. It's like it's bigger than CPAC. It's huge. We have Chase Rice, Riley Green. They're going to be there performing, and every person you can think of that's speaking. Anyways, going back. So on this topic, we have. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Your last question. What was that? What was the second part of that?
Well, I just made a comment on how we've seen. It's really encouraging to hear you guys say that you're getting into the churches now.
Oh, because churches. Yeah.
We've lost a lot of this in the churches. It's crazy.
Yeah. So Turning Point Faith. That's the reason why we launched Turning Point Faith, TPUSA Faith, is that of trying to provide the back end for the pastors in particular who want to fight in the culture war. I mean, this is the biggest issue that we have, and we've seen it in the Catholic Church. The Mormon Church is going completely off the rails right now. The LDS Church, which is huge here in Arizona, was the most Republican church uniformly of any other church, and you would think that would have stuck around with Mitt Romney and those guys. They've done nothing but destroy that. 93% of Republicans or Mormons voted for Republicans. Now that's going significantly down over all of this battling that's happening, and part of this is the culture war, right? So I'll give you an example, and you can kind of do with it as you want. But everybody's probably familiar with Evan McMullin. They try to run an Evan McMullin type of a guy against Andy Biggs, and his name is Clint Smith. And I'll tell you about him because I know about him. So he was a leader in the Mormon Church, in the LDS Church, and so he was really well respected. And so this is what we've come to realize that they do. And they do this probably in Catholic communities, and they do this in evangelical communities as well. It doesn't matter what religion it is, but I need you to understand the process by which political hacks work and political consultants work. Essentially, what they do is they go find these individuals and try to run them for office, whether it's a pastor, whether it's an LDS leader, whether it's a Catholic leader. And the reason why they try to do this is because they already have this built-in, people that will vote for them no matter what, right? And so if they can control them, if they can help them along, then they're going in with built-in. And these guys hate you. They hate us. This is Mitt Romney. This is Jeff Flake types, and a lot of people you don't know. But this guy, Clint Smith, that's who he was. And so what we did at Turning Point PAC was we immediately went out, and this guy was going around, and he was a Mormon leader. Well, the Mormon Church is very pro-life. It's actually doctrine in the LDS Church. This is like basically
straight from the church is that you're pro-life, very similar to Catholicism, right? And so what we did was we immediately went and we planted yards, or we planted signs, big 4x4 signs, all around his neighborhood that said, "Hey, this guy's telling people that he's pro-abortion, that he's against the overturn of Roe v. Wade, and all these things." And again, where in certain communities where that doesn't matter, that's one thing, but in this community, it's staunchly pro-life. That's a big deal, and really embarrassed him because he was a church leader, and so a lot of people looked at him as being kind of as obviously very pro-life, and people were shocked and dismayed by the fact that he was telling people that he was against the overturn of Roe v. Wade and other things. And again, obviously, this is a very orthodox community, LDS community, but us doing that, the net result is he only ended up with 6% of the vote, so he didn't make any impact whatsoever against Andy Biggs. But however, if his base would have grown, similar to what Evan McMullen's grew in Utah, where he's able to consolidate Democrats and not thumping these guys and exposing them for who they are, this is how they try to pass ranked choice voting. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you have a situation like they have in Alaska, where you're electing Democrats to serve in fairly deep red areas. And so this is part of their strategy. This is part of their plan. This is why the culture war matters so much. But being strategic is also really important as well for the Republican Party and for conservatives, because obviously we want to attack and we want to take that guy out. Because again, the bigger his base grew, what do you think that would have done to Kerry Lake? What do you think that would have done to Blake Masters? It would have made it would have taken away votes from them as well. And so, this is part of the reason why every little battle matters. And I spent my time doing that very locally, very close to my house. I didn't necessarily have all the time and energy in the world to go after that, but and I stuck my neck out there, and all of a sudden, we're upsetting some LDS leaders and things like that. But I don't care. You have to step up for leadership. You have to step up, to defend our republic and fight in this culture war, which is, if we just allow people, whether they're Catholic or evangelical or Mormon or whatever, step up and say, this is the new definition of what Mormons believe, or this is the new definition of what Catholics believe. All of a sudden you're going to wake up one day and you're not going to recognize your own community. And so we have to fight that every single day.
Well, I just wanted to thank you. I mean, when we look at kind of people who are out there and aren't big candidates, I think you and Scott have given a lot of us a lot of hope and momentum leading into the next, whatever it is to be involved in. So thanks, guys.
And that theme of the Constitution as covenant and the culture war as completely Soviet, those are two legs you can run on in middle America. That was great.
Thank you, guys. No, I want to say thank you. I got to get going here, but Tom, thank you for having us. Scott, thank you for all you do. Jesse, thank you for all you do. Thank you to everybody that's asking questions and getting involved. This is what we need. We need you to get pumped and leave here and say, I'm going to get more involved. I'm not going to let anyone tell me I can't get involved, and I'm also not going to allow, disorganization or confusion, or maybe something that just was not there or evaporated before I got there. I'm not going to allow that to prevent me from getting involved. A lot of this is the way I explain it to people, and I'll kind of leave you with this before I have to go. I think of it. My wife's from New Jersey, and she, a lot of little mom and pop Italian restaurants. They come out and they throw the spaghetti against the wall. And if it's ready and it's good, it sticks. And if it's slimy and gross, it slides down the wall and hits the floor and it's gross, and send it back. And they get, it's either overcooked or whatever. If it's too sticky, it's not rolling. So, that's their test, right? I think of that, and I use that as a comparison with a lot of the activists in the movement. Sometimes we're really hard on ourselves. Sometimes we're really hard on those around us, the people that are supposed to be leaders or call themselves leaders. But the reality is, what we have when we throw up against the wall is what we've got. And we don't get to choose that oftentimes, but we have to work with whatever it is. And for me, it's like, you can keep sending it back. You can get up and leave. You can do whatever, or you can just like be like, all right, whatever we got, we're gonna take it and we're gonna eat it. We're gonna try to do better next time. But I'm gonna enjoy this. I'm gonna use this to my own benefit. And that's with like everybody's time, treasures, and talents. Is a lot of us are really business oriented, and we're used to hiring and firing people, or we're just used to like people actually doing what they say they're gonna do, and that's not grassroots politics. It's not hurting cats. A lot of it is like a lot of people letting you down, expectation of let down. But again, using everybody, even if it's just a little bit, pulling together to make something bigger happen. And we need inspirational leaders. What I love about Scott is no matter what, he's inspirational, and he doesn't let anybody drag him down. And I'm sure Scott's had a lot of mean things said to him, like I've had a lot of mean things said to me. John McCain was a very mean person to me. He definitely wasn't encouraging me to get involved. But I didn't allow, I didn't know the guy, but I didn't allow him in the control tactics of politics to get in my way. And I think they were kind of dumbfounded by that. And so, like,
I love
for
that
every
story, Tyler. I love that. I love that how you ran up against McCain. But go ahead.
no, I was just gonna kind of close out here, but I appreciate all you're doing. You guys are doing here. Keep
Thanks.
after it. Keep up the fight, and God bless you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler, so much for joining us, man. I know we had some more questions for you. If you can come back again sometime, maybe Sunday afternoon. Typically, when I try to hold these big spaces that go on for hours on end, but I know we got a lot more questions that we didn't get to today. We'd love to have you back, Tyler.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, man. And I wanted to, on top of thanking Tyler, thanks Scott and Jesse for joining us. But I wanted to introduce somebody quickly here. We've got Miss Sarah Fields in the audience. Sarah, if you look at this tweet I put up there at the top, she's the person here in Texas who really exposed what was going on in El Paso. Sarah, you're from Tyler, Texas, but you found out about this incident in El Paso and you've been on top of it. And we've learned a lot, and we've learned that we probably need to go ahead and change the law in Texas to cover situations like this. But Sarah, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and explain exactly how all this came about?
Yes, absolutely. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, y'all can still hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you for giving me a few minutes. I don't have a ton of time, so I'm just gonna talk on this really quickly. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Jesse. I've heard great things about you. Jill Glover, committee woman for SERC, called me the other day and spoke very highly of you. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm here for you, and I want to encourage you in your race with the young Republicans.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that.
Of course, yes. So our organization, Texas Freedom Coalition, is a statewide organization, and we advocate for constitutional government. And one of our biggest issues is protecting the family. And if we don't have, our family is our future, our children are our future, and so we strongly believe in protecting children. And so there are multiple things that we're currently working on, but a few months ago, uh, we found out that there was a video that went viral from El Paso, Texas, in the high school from an English teacher named Amber Parker. And the video was maybe 20 to 30 seconds long, but it basically showed a high school English teacher saying, "Stop it. We're not going to call them that," in reference to pedophiles. "We're going to call them MAPS, minor attracted persons." So we shouldn't judge them just because they want to have sex with a 5-year-old. Well, that video went viral, and the school eventually had to come forward, and the superintendent of the school said that they were going to suspend the teacher for now and conduct an investigation. Now, I do a lot of open records requests. That's how I get a lot of the information I do. And later on in the week, a lot of students and people from El Paso actually came forward and said, well, this teacher was taken out of context. She was using this as a learning lesson. This is a dead story. This is not going to go anywhere. She didn't actually mean what she said. Well, the problem is that if she didn't actually mean what she said, then why was she terminated after an investigation? And why is it that the investigation was not shared in order to clear her name if she's not actually defending pedophiles?
Not only that, why did in the video did she correct the student and say, no, we're not going to say it that way. If you listen
Right.
closely to the video, she's correcting the students, saying specifically what we're not going to do and what we are going to do. That to me sounds like specific instruction. Doesn't it sound like you're having a conversation about context, about what somebody may or may not say about the issue? There's a different way to present that, but I don't believe that's what she was doing. I don't believe that's a genuine
I
defense. But go ahead, Sarah.
Exactly. I don't either. And it's, they tried to say, well, they were having a debate and she was on the other side of it. And there were a lot of excuses that came out of this. But it still, it bothered me in a way that I ended up sending an open records request to El Paso ISD asking for the entire investigation. Because they had conducted an interview that they had gotten the audio recordings on a thumb drive, and I wanted all of it because many parents came to us and asked us, can you please do an investigation on this? We feel like, especially the ones that live within that ISD, we have a right to know who was teaching our kids. And so we went back and forth. They ended up not wanting to release any information to me at all. And they actually went up to the Attorney General of Texas, the Open Records Division, and appealed it and said that they were protected under law. They didn't need to share this. I then sent them back a legal letter saying that actually, yes, parents do have the constitutional right to know who is teaching their child. It was a back and forth for a while. So fast forward, it's been about 2 months now. My investigation came to an end a couple of days ago. And as I said, it's not the end that we wanted, but it's still a win because it revealed an issue that we are able to fix. After sending my legal explanations of why parents deserve to know the truth, um, about the interview that was done that eventually led to her termination, I received in the mail a letter that the Attorney General had sent to the school district. And basically what the letter said was that according to government code, and I shared that government code in the video that I tweeted on my Twitter account. According to government code, we do have the constitutional right to know about investigations. However, Texas Education Code says that teacher evaluations can be kept confidential. Now, remember when I said that they came forward to the media and said the teacher was under investigation? They were very specific about that word, but how they were able to uh, get away with this, with not sharing any of the information, is that when they appealed it, they changed the language and called it a teacher evaluation. And because the teacher was still a teacher at that school, and because the teacher still had her teacher's license, um, she was then protected by Texas Education Code. And so, therefore, under this code, under the government code, they would have had to release the findings. Under education code, it superseded the government code. So, basically, this is how they got away with it. And if anyone wants a copy of that letter, you can have it. I can email it. But it goes to prove that teachers have more rights than parents do in the state of Texas, even if that teacher is a possible pedophile. And it's very backwards. So we are currently working with multiple legislators. I'm very good friends with Senator Hall, Representative Brian Slayton. He and I are talking tomorrow, and we're going to hopefully get this addressed. And that's just one of the things that we're working on. But I strongly suggest, if you have an issue like this, if in any state that you're living in, open records requests are very powerful and can be used regardless of whether you feel like it feels like it's a loss. You can find out why it was a loss and use that to your advantage.
Thank you for that, Sarah. Yeah, you described everything in detail perfectly, really what happened here. And due to the nature of the the way the school handled it, and they did this administrative review more or less, not an actual investigation. You had different law apply to the situation, and so we want to prevent that in the future. These people are instructing minors, our minors, with our taxpayer dollars. I think is a major problem if they're going to sit there in the classroom and advocate for pedophilia, which is we all know is against the law. That's not normal, and it's not to be normalized in any environment, in any school for that matter, but especially in this incident. And I think the best thing that we've got working for us is the fact that kids have cell phones on them with recording devices. I don't like the fact that they have access to all the social media, and I know Jared Patterson's working on a bill to address that. But at least we've got a way to catch these teachers if, in fact, they go off the rails. And we've got some students in there that are wise enough to go ahead and get them on recording saying this type of stuff, which is completely uncalled for. So thank you for bringing that. I wanted to bring you on stage earlier, and I know you've got small children and everybody's busy on Sunday. But we talked about this early at the beginning of the room, right when I started it. Barely had anybody in here, and then this room blew up to about 1,400 people with Tyler here, and we got to go back and forth with him. That was fun. I'm gonna go through the hands real fast, and if Sarah, if you got anything else you want to say as far as that goes, but we got to adjust the law in Texas.
I agree.
And I think Slayton will do a great job of that. He's very proactive. I want to see Dade Phelan be forced to make a statement on this, along with Patrick and Abbott. You know, this is a no brainer. Situations like these are no brainers. Is it going to piss off the teachers? Of course it is. Do I care one bit? Hell no, because it's common sense. You know, I mean, it. I don't want to hear one excuse from Dade Phelan on this, or anybody in Texas for that matter. This is really a
Yes.
no-brainer, you know, and you should be able to have investigations and incidences where, you're talking about things like this. Clearly, you know, we want to know the full story here, just like everybody else does. If we actually had the full tape, everybody would know. But Sarah, go ahead.
Real quick, I also just wanted to mention I had a lot of I have multiple platforms, and there were people on my Instagram account who were asking me why this specific incident. There's so many different incidents. We have to be able to hone in on one incident, because if we try to cover it all, we're not going to accomplish anything. Just know that I used this incident to be able to get to the bottom of why so many of these teachers are being protected and so much of this information is not being shared to the public. This is happening everywhere. This isn't even just this is happening all over Texas. Texas. This is happening all over America, and honing in on this one incident was the basically how we were able to bring the truth to the light so that people understand, and we can start focusing on all of it, because we have criminals and pedophiles and so many horrible people coming in as teachers, and unfortunately pushing a lot of the very good teachers out. I know a lot of good teachers, but a majority of them have either left or told me they plan on leaving, and we have to stop this.
Yes, I agree. Brett, you've had your hand up. Sorry you missed Tyler, buddy. We'll get you next time. But Brett, go ahead.
No, I appreciate that, Tom. Tyler had some great things, and I'm definitely one of the people that wants to get more involved with like the RNC, and the only way that we're going to change our parties, from grassroots. And I'm really liking what Virginia's doing. I'm an election officer in Richmond, Virginia, and I actually wanted to ask Tyler just some for our viewers, myself, and actually I texted him over Twitter, and he's gotten back to me, and he's answered some of my questions. But I kind of want to understand like the RNC's leadership, like from the breakdown from the top to the bottom. What powers does the RNC chair have that are like most lucrative? That say we do flip this seat, if that's possible. Like, what are the things that will change with having that position? And then Morton Blackwell, he's my committee man, just like Tyler, who's in Arizona. And I was kind of wanted to understand like what's y'all's role in representing me. And lastly, I wanted a link if anyone could DM me to how to get more involved with the RNC kind of stuff. So that's
Yep, I can send you all that information. If you want to shoot me a DM, I just followed you.
yeah.
I'm in Northern Virginia. I'm the Young Republican chair for Virginia right now, so I am happy to connect you with all that
You're
stuff.
in luck, Brett. You're in luck. You've got like a heavy hitter from your area on stage that knows everything.
Exactly. So
You
this
out
is
with
a great
that.
space, right?
Yeah.
How we get stronger, we network, and yeah, Jesse, I'm from Loudoun County, which is
Oh, awesome.
news, and so we talk about school. Just to let you guys know, they did like a whole investigation. From what I've understood, they try to block that from being public. It got passed by the Virginia Supreme Court to allow.
Yeah, they just released a grand jury report. So
and I have that link if anyone needs that. And it was like a 96-page document. And basically from that, the superintendent of Loudoun County, which is the richest county in the country, got fired. So that's like a pretty big deal. I've lived in Loudoun County for like 20 years. It used to be a nice small farm town outside of DC. And now everyone that works there is basically a DC contractor that works for the government. And I luckily kind of got out of there, went to like boarding school in Central Virginia, which is very like, free and open and a lot of land. So kind of like spent some time at James Madison, the mountains. So I'm definitely kind of like a Central Virginia kind of guy. But Northern Virginia, that's a whole nother world. So Jesse, would love to connect and work with you in the future just to make Virginia a better state, because we have a huge opportunity this year to flip the Senate in Virginia and be a trifecta government, as Scott has easily explained to everyone. I remember seeing the video a couple years ago or a year ago, and I'm like, wow, like holy crap. And so Virginia, we're really close. And one thing I think we really need to change is the election laws, because in Virginia you can auto enroll into a mail-in ballot, and you might have a different opinion than me, but I just see elections for the last 2 years and the problems that have caused, and just why it takes so long. So things that will make it more simple, more common sense is what I kind of want to go to. And I don't want to paper ballots is the best way in my opinion. So if and that's the only way that we're going to make that happen and that change happen is if we get involved and we change it with the Republicans and the RNCs. A huge first step in that to make that happen. So that's my thoughts for the day. Really appreciate you all listening.
hey, thanks so much, Brett. And yeah, please send me a message. Actually, on that state Senate race that you were talking about, the Young Republicans are going to do a deployment down there in the beginning of January. So if you're interested, you're welcome to join us. We'll put you up in a hotel room, make sure your food is covered, and you can come knock doors with us and get to meet some folks and get a little bit more involved with the party.
Yeah, I'm there. So we'll make it happen.
Sweet. John, you got your hand up again.
Yes, sir, I do. I was wanting some more information about getting involved also, and that's all I needed to say.
All right, man. Where are you based?
I'm out of Georgia.
Georgia. All right. I know some folks in Georgia that can help you out, so feel free to shoot me a DM.
Will do. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing that Scott has a link that he sent me before is I took a class and like did all the things the right way, and you have to understand you have to do this the right way if you're going to do it. Is get 200 like voter registration applications, and it got sent to my house the other day. I got it all confirmed, and my parents got it, and I'm in grad school right now. So when I go home, I'm going to get those and do some voter registration in some of these blue areas. I follow Lee Zeldin. I don't know him at all or anything like that. But one thing that I think that if you stand your ground, you stay confident in these really blue areas and just have a conversation, you're going to get attacked. But if you can fight through that, you never know. You might get one or two people. And, if you're really about the grassroots, you're about growing anywhere. And if it's a place that doesn't have a lot of good soil, you got to put a seed down there. So that's why you got to go to those areas, because the only way you're going to grow is start those seeds. And then if that seed will grow, that's where it'll get nourished and keep going. So another thought right there.
Thank you.
All right, Saber, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I just first wanted to thank everybody for what you guys are doing. It gives me great pleasure to see people in real time actually, participating in the process, learning how to do more. And it's so much more of what we need to do. But I really heard what we talked about the culture war. And this is where I don't understand how we're losing so poorly. I personally, you guys can probably hear by my voice, it's a little grovelly. I like to sing. I want to become a force in the culture war. I was wondering if there's people that are doing that. I know there's people throughout the conservative movement that are, interested in doing that. I want to link up with the right people to help, because we are losing very badly in the culture war, and there's no reason for it. Also, just real quickly, Gen X and Gen Z, I believe, are the key demographics that have been, booted by the RNC and everything else. I was one of the hope and change Obama voters from Gen X. I got duped, and it's embarrassing to say, but I realized the establishment was destroying the country and was against we the people, and was duped into the Obama hope and change. And I believe there are millions of Gen Xers, and I believe the young population, which we're finding is far more conservative than we ever thought because they have access to so much information. Now with the freeing up Twitter, etc., how are we going to focus on winning in Gen X, Gen Z, and the culture war? I'm sorry to be so verbose.
Gen X, Gen Z, and the culture war. What's the idea to win that? You say that's your question, Saber.
Yeah, I just believe that. I mean, I only can speak for myself. I'm obviously not a millennial or a Gen Zer, but from my generation, Gen X, I believe that many people were duped, and by the hope and change in Obama, just like we already discussed, the 2016 voters were probably a lot of those. How do we capitalize on that moving forward, and then bring the majority of the Gen Xers who already are majority conservative into the fold of the America First, et cetera, and capitalize on this so we won't keep losing?
I'll take a stab at this real quick. I mean, Gen X and Gen Z are kind of there's a big difference in terms of how we engage them. On the Gen Z front, I think it's really, really important to understand that a lot of these kids, I say kids, but they're a lot of them are young adults now, um, who are coming up. Like this is really the first generation where the left has had full control, educationally and institutionally of what they've learned, and it has been so stripped of any content, specifically content about what our country is and what its institutions are there for, right? So a big part of what we have to do, both from the party side and kind of even from the influencer side, like the anyone right of center kind of fighting in this culture war, is engagement and education. It has to be in an understandable, like we can give them all the talking points about defending America, but if they don't know foundationally what America is, they are not going to be able to understand that. So we have to be able to convey the message about what our country is, why it was created the way that it was, what our founding documents are there for, what our voting system is based on, why those things are positive. But we also have to be able to instill in them some hope for the future because for many of them they're graduating high school or college into a world where they're being told basically you are not going to be able to own any property. It's kind of pointless for you to try to have a family because it's going to be too expensive anyway. Food is expensive, gas is expensive. You're probably going to live at home with your parents till you're in your 40s, right? That's not a very hopeful message. And to be honest, if all we're saying is defend the institutions or defend the structure of our country, a lot of them are going to say, well, that's not working for me, right? So we have to come at this with a twofold message of why we need to defend how our country is created and also what we're going to do to fix it so that people who are in Gen Z who are trying to start their lives feel like they have something to live for. And that's something that there's no easy solution to that, but I think that it's really important that conservatives first take a look at that and understand, yeah, we know everything sucks right now, right? Like we know things suck for you. Here's what we're going to try to do to make it better. Um, Gen X is a little bit different, honestly, because Gen X grew up fundamentally in a kind of a different country than we have right now. And so I think when it comes to Gen X, it's opening people's eyes and saying, yeah, that the country that you grew up in is not the one we're living in right now. Because a lot of people haven't realized that yet. Like I'm sure most of the people on this space have realized, yeah, we're living by a different set of rules than we were 20 years ago. But the sense of kind of waking people up who are in Gen X to that's going to be a big part of winning them over.
Yeah, thank you. And hold on one second, Saber. I wanted to interrupt for 1 second. Lisa, we get you on stage now. Welcome to the party. Nuance is back. I wanted to make a general announcement. We've been going with a pretty serious conversation now for over about 4 hours, and we're about to transfer into a less serious, laid back, have some fun time conversation. Just because I can't do this for 6 hours straight. It's crazy. No one wants to. But we've had a
He
lot of.
doesn't have the stamina. Also, because I just sent a DM to the group chat that was like, "Are you guys talking about elections again? For fuck's sake, I'd rather shoot myself in the face."
Oh, there's definitely more interesting
Lisa's
things going on
Welcome,
right now.
Lisa.
We're not talking
Lisa
about
saying
that
it.
with me. We're not talking about that with me on the stage. I'm friends with everybody
We're
involved in
not
that.
talking about any public tweets by any notable figures regarding
keep
other
Lisa
notable
safe. Keep everything kosher and halal.
I
Well,
promise.
good evening, everybody. Sorry, I just disrupted your very serious
No, that's
conversation.
okay. That's okay. I want to do this one thing,
Anymore.
Lisa.
We
If
can
we
still
could,
talk about elections. We can talk about why do you think we lost Georgia, for example?
Why don't we do
Oh,
this?
baby.
Why don't we wrap up that question? Because Saber had a good question here, right? So Nuance or Lisa, if you want to tell him what our plan is for Generation X, Generation Z, or what we need to do to win them over, we can, and then we'll go to Joe, and then after that, we're gonna turn the lights on to the bar and open up shop.
And
But
how to capitalize on the Twitter files and the grooming, etc., and the mass,
yeah,
you know.
Is that
I
shit
think
even coming out today?
what's going on with that case that Sarah Fields just talked about, I think is a prime example of how to win people over easily. It's just really, to me, that's something that should resonate with people. But that being said, Lisa Nuance, do you have anything you want to contribute on that?
I did tweet.
Go ahead.
Elijah. I did see a tweet from Elijah actually that said defund consultants, and I don't think that as somebody who does some political.
Okay, now you're talking about it without trying to talk about it.
No, that was
Joe.
thing. My boss sent me one of my bosses just sent me a thing. It was like defund consultants, and I'm like, yeah, well, honestly,
Listen, what are you really trying to talk about? What's really on your mind?
What's really going on?
Why are you bringing up certain people? What's going on here?
I'm not. I'm
Okay.
actually talking about the defunding consultants, literally.
Let's go with Joe. Joe's patiently got his hand up. He has no idea what y'all are talking about. Joe.
No, I've been following along, guys. How you doing? I want to thank everybody for the great conversation, especially Mr. Pressler for doing what you do. I happen to be a lifelong Macomb County Republican. I'm currently the Macomb County Deputy Treasurer, and I'd like to connect Mr. Pressler to our County Treasurer, our County Prosecuting Attorney, our County Clerk, and the County Public Works Commissioner, and the Chairman of the County Board, all Republicans. And, I just wanted to kind of share two things. I agree with the whole thing that we have to stand up and defend what I refer to as Heritage America. And we just had a great example of that in Macomb County a couple weeks ago in the swing local unit of government of Clinton Township. Any Republican running Macomb County has to win in Clinton Township. And after the worst blue wave I've ever experienced in my life in Michigan here, where they were able to flip the legislature and keep the statewides, the Democrats did what they usually did, and they overreached in Clinton Township. Now, this is a 5 Democrat to 2 Republican board. The 5 Democrats, in their infinite wisdom, decided to pass a resolution recognizing MLK and Juneteenth Day, but also slipping in the abolition of Columbus Day. And they swapped it out with Indigenous People Day. Now, the curious thing about that, Clinton Township has 20,000 people, or 20% of the population are of Italian descent. The Italian American Culture Center is there. And so, yeah, everyone I just mentioned, we all rallied, we showed up, and within a span of 3 weeks, the 5 Democrats basically folded and had to vote to restore Columbus Day and move Indigenous People Day to another day. And we kept hitting them over the fact that, basically they're erasing American heritage, and they didn't want to give a reason why other than, a general statement of promoting diversity. And we organized and we knocked it out, and we basically attacked them the second we found out about it. And that's what we got to do. We have to show up and we have to fight for what I refer to as Heritage America. And that kind of stuff will rally people that normally don't care about politics. Because I can tell you, there's a lot of Italians in Clinton Township that aren't registered to vote and had no interest. But now, even though they basically folded and gave it back, they're out for blood. And so we want to set up what Mr. Pressler is recommending, a ballot harvesting operation at the Italian American Culture Center there. And if we can win Clinton Township, we're going to have a rock solid Republican win throughout the county. And that's the kind of stuff we got to do, guys. And then the second point is, not just defend Heritage America. We got to give people that maybe don't know about it a reason to join in. And so what we've been trying to do in Michigan is turn Michigan into a space state. We want to give people sort of that retro futurist kind of high expectations of, hey, if we rally and we have a new frontier to conquer like space, that'll bring the country around, and we can even turn it into a situation where we generate all kinds of wealth from the space economy. And we basically say, vote for Republicans, vote for us. We're going to restore America. We're going to generate all this wealth in space, and we're going to bring it back to our local cities, townships, villages, and use that wealth for basically solving our problems on Earth. And I think that kind of grand vision or something like that is what we need in this country, and what we can kind of rally behind as a unifying theme. And so I just wanted to share that, encourage all of you to keep doing what you're doing. And it's going to boil down to, what do we want to do? What do we want to accomplish in this country? And I think what we're talking about here tonight is what most people want in this country.
And that's Macomb?
Macomb County, Michigan.
Is that like a Irish hairbrush or something?
It's actually named after General Macomb. He was a hero of war of 1812, and we have a big statue of him that they tried to tear down a few years ago because his father had slaves. So that's the kind of stuff that we keep fighting and winning on, and I think that encourages independents to say, hey, these guys are actually defending things we care about that otherwise, nobody's really addressing, and that's what we got to do across the board. Thanks
Just
for
want to
that.
say I'm very pro space.
That was awesome, Joe. Yeah, I grew up not too far away from Macomb, Mississippi. Actually, lots of Macomb out there.
Very cool.
Well, yeah, somebody brought up this question about whether there's momentum with this latest Twitter files drop, and the parents seeing all this kind of stuff. I guess question would be like, the last time we saw some movement like that, I guess, Jesse, would be in Virginia to some extent. There was a factor there with Youngkin, right? I mean, is there an echo of that here, or is this something completely different to you?
Sorry, I missed the beginning of that question.
Twitter files drop and the whole Yoel the groomer thing, and basically the influence upon public thinking and politics as compared to, does it have any kind of a theme that we saw in Virginia at all with Youngkin?
Yeah, I think it really could, but it's definitely going to be a factor of kind of seizing the moment. So in Virginia, we had a very clear example of the difference between the two parties, because we had a debate stage moment where Terry McAuliffe said, we don't think parents should have an opinion on what's taught in these schools. So that was immediately clipped and run on a bunch of campaign ads for the rest of the campaign cycle. And it was a factor of, not only did we have that story coming out that was talked about all over the world, but we also had a Democrat candidate who specifically made a statement on that was incredibly stupid that we could then run on repeat until the election. So we need to get more Democrats on record talking about these things. We need to sound clip that, and we need to run that on repeat for as long as possible everywhere.
Got it.
I
We got to
love
set the
this.
bear
I already
trap.
know what Alad's gonna say. I already
Let's
know.
go.
What Alad?
Set a
What is
bear
it?
trap for Elon.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good evening. I just wanted to ask.
Hold on, Alad. Before you say it, is it gonna start with a C or an E?
Both. Well, what do you guys
that's
think
what
about?
I figured. See,
what
I
do you
knew
guys think
exactly
about-
what he was going to talk
obviously,
about.
Nuance,
Starts
shut
with
up.
a G.
So, what do you guys think about Christian Walker going savage mode right
We're
now?
not going to talk about this. And when
What do you mean we're not going to talk about this?
We're not
No,
going to
it's
talk
literal
about this.
news.
You're
This is news.
Wait a couple
You
of
see
days
how
ago.
well
real news.
You see how well I know Alad.
What do you mean? This
how I
just happened.
know
This is a big
he's gonna
deal,
bring it up.
guys. This is a big fucking deal. And for you guys to just say like, "Hey, we can't talk about it."
What's the big?
Who's the real
Alad,
free
no.
speech
He had
advocate?
a-
Don't we
the
care about
elections-
free speech here? Don't we care about free speech?
Wait, I don't really see what the big deal is. Alad, is this earth-shattering house? So, what's the ramifications from this? That's going to change anything significant? If you can explain that, then maybe I'm up for the conversation. But can you?
It's been more juicy than any of the fucking Twitter drops. I'll tell you that much.
It's petty fucking drama and infighting that we don't need, and I'm not gonna.
Well, it's ridiculous that people are blaming Christian Walker for his dad's loss. And
I agree with that.
if you're gonna dogpile onto Christian, you
This is
don't throw
days
stones if
ago,
you live in a
Elon.
glass
Did your
house.
mommy not feed you today? What's your fucking problem?
My mommy did feed me today. She fed me a fucking lot. I don't know what's up your ass, but
Yeah,
Anyway, we
let's
can move
not
on
try
if
to
you
look
guys
up other
want.
people's
We
asses.
could.
I know that's a thing of yours, but drop it.
All right,
No, you
awesome
know what? It just puts
messenger.
me in a really bad situation because I'm friends with every single party involved in any of that mess. And I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to be put in a position where I have to defend people, not defend people, because when I say there are two sides to every story, there's, there's there's different parts to each part of a story that I happen to know all of, but a lot of other people don't. And it's not fair to say this one's right on this part and that one's wrong on this part and this one's right on that part. So let's just say that hey, nobody's perfect, including Elijah, Emily, fucking
Who the fuck's
Christian.
Emily?
Lisa, oh my
You
god.
dumb Lisa. I can't believe you. Oh my god.
Well, the alleged girl, I don't give a fuck. That girl, I don't care about. Okay, but the point
Oh
is
my
that
god. Wait, can you fact check true?
no, actually,
Oh, so fact check false.
there's parts that are there's a lot of nuance to it. Nuance, bro.
I was not involved. I wasn't even there. What are you talking about?
So
Whatever's
there's just
alleged.
like I was around for all of the things, and
Lisa,
I
actually
just don't
wait,
think
can you
it's.
stop? Can you stop?
I just think
Just
it's wrong. It's just not right.
let's stop. Let's move on. Anyway. So
Nothing burger.
these Twitter drops
Okay,
are such
Elon.
duties.
Yeah, you knew
Lisa's saying
exactly
too
what
much.
you were doing.
Lisa was saying too much. She's like, I don't want to talk about this, and then she's ranting on for a
Lisa's
few
like
minutes.
I'm
name
trying to actually stay
dropping.
neutral about the
Nobody
thing.
even knew what the name, and she's like saying names.
Lisa, what the fuck?
Listen, that girl's trouble. Let me tell you something.
Lisa, was that the girl at the
I don't
bar
care
with the
about
fight?
regardless of
Was
Elijah,
that girl?
Hey Tom, you missed
at
a
the
really
the
bar?
girl
good
that got
tweet
finger
a couple of
banged in the
hours
middle of
ago.
a lobby. Yeah, that's her.
Oh, I thought it was the girl at the bar. I thought it was the girl
Lisa,
at the
you're
bar.
not helping make it a nothing burger by shouting. Just let him fucking wander off.
Yeah,
well, Messenger, you're kind of out of touch here. You don't know like
Tom,
what me
you
and
missed
Lisa
a
are
good tweet
talking
a couple of
about.
hours ago. Did you see the Elon tweet where he said, forcing your pronouns upon others when they didn't ask and implicitly ostracizing those who don't is neither good nor kind to anyone. Fucking based
Great,
Elon.
let's have this fucking stupid ass pronoun conversation for the 100th fucking time. Nobody here disagrees with you.
What did you say?
Anyway, the Twitter drops have been duty, right?
They've been duty.
Fantastic.
Duty?
To
Really
be
a
fair,
lot? Duty? Really?
I didn't see the one last night. So if anybody wants to give me a recap,
Generally, and the way they're rolled out has been such crap. And
What's wrong with the way they're rolled out? Why don't you explain in detail? Instead of just like
I don't know.
throw
Maybe dropping some. I'll tell you right now. I don't know. Maybe for your Saturday night drop over the course of over an hour, you don't like slow roll your fucking load for 3 hours with these like.
Wait. You're mad that they're releasing it via tweets on this platform. You're mad that they're taking their time and gaining followers. Let's face it, Elon. You're mad that you're not the journalist actually that's getting to write all this crap. Like, am I wrong or am I right?
Yeah, you're wrong. You're wrong that you're wrong, and what you're saying here is really like it's clear, and I'm glad you're understanding. It feels like more promotional than anything
You
else.
lied. You were a nobody before. You're still a nobody. It's no big deal. Just enjoy it.
So I don't know what these like ad hominem attacks are now. Like I'm trying to address real points. And you guys are
Because
just
you
getting mad
come in and
about it.
fucking talk
But
bullshit and gaslight people. So if you
what
act like an
Messenger?
idiot,
What if I
who's gonna treat
gaslit you
like
on,
one?
you fucking idiot?
Ooh, so.
All right, let's keep it civil a little bit. Let's keep it a little bit civil. Let's not do so much.
I mean, it's not disputed that this stuff is promotional. They drag it out because they want to get maximum exposure, not just for the story, but for themselves.
Hey, how much
They gained
Soros
almost
money?
$1
How much
million,
Soros money does Elon get paid? How much?
Yeah,
Soros
I
money
mean, is really Elon really paying these people cash up front for any?
No, but it's promotional. It's promo, and that.
Do you get paid? Do you get paid to say what you're saying?
Well,
yes or
no,
no?
I don't get paid to say what I'm saying.
It's actually ironic with Elon because he gets paid by a man
not
who
a
wears
believer.
a certain type of hat, but it's not the type of hat you might be thinking of.
Nuance. How is that an okay thing to say? Like
that was like,
what's wrong with
if you actually analyzed what I said, that was a genius joke. Like it was amazing.
No. It was actually.
Yes, it was. What are you talking about? It's an amazing joke.
It was like a low ball joke and like plays into tropes, and it's sad that the only joke you could ever think of me is a Jew joke.
That was a funny joke. Relax.
Bombshell after bombshell coming out of Twitter files, and you like
I'm pretty
it's
sure
a nothing burger.
Bombshell after
you
bombshell.
must be paid.
I must be paid. Tom, you're in such like an echo chamber
Alon,
if you
you
think
think
these things.
that
It's
no,
ridiculous.
Oh, of
do you
course. Anybody
think
that
it's not a
disagrees
good
with you
thing?
is an echo chamber.
Hold on one second. Do you think this is really happening? The collusion with the federal government, the FBI, these agencies, these alphabet agencies meeting with the people that run Twitter on a weekly basis. Is that something that is legitimately
So
okay?
I think
No,
this
no,
has
no, 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 no,
been
no, no. Is that something that's legitimately okay with you? Your
Yeah, go on
taxpayer
the record,
money,
buddy.
your taxpayer money being spent on a weekly basis to do this? And should this happen at every social media company across the nation? Is this something that we should
okay.
normalize? The federal government
So
actually working in these companies and
okay.
dictating policy? Is that okay?
Okay, Tom. So if I could respond, no, I don't. But I also think that the bombshell, what like I already think there was some reporting that all these alphabet letter agencies are already involved with not just Twitter, but this is happening on all the social media platforms, as I
Yeah,
understand,
but
and
now we have
I'm
the
not happy about it,
receipts.
and I'm not happy about it. But I think we had like hints of moderation going on. Obviously, not to the extent, and there were some scoops here. I just don't. I think it was more hype and the way they rolled it out seemed more promotional than anything else. And that's it. That's all my critiques. We don't need to be mad
Which
about
is
it.
fantastic. It's been very entertaining. It's like a Trump rally every weekend combined with like a sports game. It's wonderful, and these spaces are huge. People are
That's not
having
what
a good
reporting
time.
should be, but okay.
You're the only
Yeah.
guys kind of whining in the corner.
So, like, my
Good
favorite thing
comeback.
is how the what?
Go ahead.
No, never mind. I said all I had to say. I'll just listen now. Thank you, guys.
He comes in, he stirs the pot, creates trouble, and he's like, "All right, now that I set fire and destroyed the land, I'm gonna leave."
People are messaging me. Who's this Alon guy? Is he a Biden voter? Alon, do you want to answer them?
Oh, he doesn't vote. That's the thing. It could be a very consequential race, but he doesn't vote because then that would, because he takes his journalism so seriously, this would, disturb his journalistic integrity, even though journalists vote all
Why
the time.
are we always picking on Alon? I just don't understand. Like this Alon.
What?
Lisa, do you
How
want
do
to
you
know what
not
it is?
understand based on
Lisa,
everything
I'll
that
tell
just
you what it
happened
is.
right now?
Lisa, it's because I'm Jewish.
Oh my
Oh
God! See, there he
God,
goes
are you
again.
serious?
All
There
right,
he
Alon.
goes again.
I definitely don't think that's true, Alon. I really
Well,
don't.
you can't see it because you guys, you just wouldn't understand.
Now you
It's
sound
I
like
hard
a
don't
to.
Oh,
care
see,
what nationality
Should
now,
kick
now
this
just
guy
anybody
5
because
minutes
is,
ago.
dummy.
Lisa's
What a
a
real
chick,
conversation.
all of a sudden, she can't understand. That's what you're saying.
She's a lovely. She's my favorite goy, Lisa.
Elon, go
No,
have
it's
some tea with
Shiksa. You
Joy
don't
Reid,
say
buddy.
goy for a
Go,
girl.
you can go race bait with Joy Reid.
Okay,
Are you
Nice.
Alon,
guys think
I'm not
what?
into that victimhood mentality shit. You know that, so don't pull that on
Ditto.
me.
Oh, he
But
loves it. It's his favorite.
no, it's not. A lot's better than that. I feel like you guys don't really get to know
Lisa,
a
you
lot
just don't
from.
have a sense. You don't have a sense for the
No, I
man.
know him in real life, so I actually do have a better
Me
sense than
too.
you
Me too.
do. Anyway, whatever. I'm gonna eat these things and put these candles on
Despite
my.
everything I'm saying, a lot's fine. I don't have a big problem with a lot. I like messing with him sometimes.
Did you guys see the Mises Caucus meme with Sam Harris, whatever, and he's like rubbing his hands together in the outline of the merchant? No, I'm serious.
Well,
And
no,
then
Mises is known for that sort of
no,
stuff.
but then
The
also
Libertarian
like
Party.
they ended up deleting it, but also like the head of the party, Angela or whatever, she was like, "No, what do you mean? Like I don't even see this at all." Like in her tweets, she was like, "What are you talking about?" I'll post it in the jumbo, but it was so ridiculous.
Yeah, Mises, I think historically has kind of had this reputation. Kind of like when it went back to they criticized Ron Paul for like the newsletters and stuff, and there was always like this segment of the libertarian movement / party that kind of had some of these elements, but
When you say these elements,
it
nuance,
attracts
what do
some
you
of
mean?
the more conspiratorial elements of
Are you? I know, but I feel like we're hinting around something that you're not trying to say outright, but I want to
like what?
understand.
What are you talking about?
Like maybe these people, some people in the Mises Caucus might be a little bigoted, and maybe some of the party are willing to overlook it or just incompetent.
I'm honestly not as educated on it. Like I've always heard about it to some degree, but it's not something I'm super educated on. It's just I've like heard and seen some things here and there. To what degree it's like full on like Nazi versus like just conspiratorial stuff.
I wouldn't use
I
that
don't know.
word, but yo, they did trace the happy merchant for this meme.
I mean, sometimes art imitates life, or
No,
life
they
imitates
traced
art.
it
I don't
though.
know.
They literally traced the meme.
I don't know. But did you post it in the jumbotron so I can see what you're
One
talking
sec.
about?
Anybody got any new like 1970s rock albums I might not have listened to yet? I've
All right, get rid of the
entertainment.
boomer. Get rid of the boomer.
Dude, you came in and made the space so fucking boring, and that's your excuse?
Me made it boring? What are you
You
talking
dragged your drag queen in,
about? Who's my drag queen?
Elon. He
Lots of my
showed up with
drag
you.
queen.
Guy's got his face up your ass. I mean, what's going on?
What does that even mean?
You just bring the spaces down, man.
Yeah, okay, messenger. You literally come in and babble about nothing, and people are like, why does he talk so much?
Spencer's in
Oh.
the house, though. Spencer, what's up, dude?
Yo,
Spencer.
Now,
what the
Spencer's
fuck
actually
is up?
someone who
Listen,
does talk a
give me,
lot, but it's like good
hand
talk.
me the fucking mic, okay? I was listening on another anonymous account, and this shit was boring the fuck out of me. You got 400 people in here.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
remember
You're
this
not winning
summer.
nuance. You can keep talking, but your boobies
The
aren't going to make it
messenger
this
is
time.
correct, okay? The space got brought down the second you showed up. Nuance. There's 400 fucking people in here. You got to entertain, brother. I know you got it in you, okay? What the fuck is going on?
It's
Why
not
are
my
there, why
space.
are there
I'm just
400
here.
people?
I'm
Oh,
just
my bad,
here.
Nuance. Why are there 400 people in here? What's going on?
It was 5:30, but after nuance arrived, it's down to 3:47.
We had 1,600 people in here at one point. When
Yeah,
none of
we
you
were
guys
over
were here.
1,000 for like 3.5 hours
Yeah.
earlier
Yeah,
today.
Harmeet Dhillon was in the space earlier.
Nuance. Do
We
you
were
remember
talking about
Nuance? Do you remember like 1 o'clock in the morning in the middle of August, and there were like 20 people in a fucking space, but those spaces killed, and now you got 1,000 people in here, and you can't make anyone laugh. This is a fucking disaster.
It's
Nuance.
not my space. It's
Spencer,
not my
1 second.
space.
Spencer, can I get your reaction to the image in the jumbotron?
Yeah, sure. Let's take it. Oh, the Christian Walker thing?
No. More recent.
I don't see it. Sorry, man.
None of us see whatever you're posting.
What the fuck?
What you got for us, Elon? You wanna spell it out, brother? Okay, here we go.
I tried again.
All right,
Yeah,
all right. Now I
this.
see
So
what
when
you're
I
talking
saw
about.
this a few weeks ago, Dave Smith put this up. I haven't read it. You know, it does look like a caricature of. It looks like a caricature, a bad caricature. I wouldn't dig this. No.
No, but now look at the follow up. You could tell it's actually a tracing of a happy merchant meme.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they make Sam Bankman look like
No, that's not
And
the
the funny
follow-up.
thing,
That's the
the funny thing,
original.
Elon, since nobody else really knows how to talk about the libertarians in here, I will jump forward and talk about them. You
No,
know, the
it's
funny
not
thing,
a.
but it's like Dave Smith, it's Angela McArdle. I'm not saying it's them doing it. I'm just saying this is where the conversation is coming from.
Wait, Spencer, though, you brought up Angela. Angela actually excused this and said it wasn't what they were going
I think
for.
Elon, I think that's crazy, but it's really funny to me because, of course, Ron Paul was dogged by these claims. One of the great libertarians because of the Lou Rockwell letters that the newsletters that went out that essentially had the same cartoon in it. So it's like this fucking bullshit just dogs these idiot libertarians. And what, she's gonna claim naivety? I mean, but I don't really know.
No. So here's the real question. Is this art that they like made themselves, or someone posted a meme and it like, they're like, oh, like this happens all the time. People will see a meme and there's obviously like crossover with some of the beliefs that they have. They don't
Nuance.
necessarily
That's
know
at best
it's like
incompetence. That's at best incompetence.
if you want to say it's incompetence, sure, but if
I'm
they
saying
just
at
saw a
best.
meme, yeah,
I don't think it's incompetence. I think they know exactly
well, then
what
I
they're
think
doing.
if they literally like directed this meme be made and they drew it up and posted it
Nuance.
their
We
own,
all immediately knew what it was. We
dude,
all immediately knew.
Dude, you don't understand how fucking like uninformed a lot of people are when it comes to this shit. I know people who've straight up posted like literal neo-Nazi memes, and I'm like, that's the black sun like in your meme, right? And they're like, what's the black sun? They have no idea what that shit is. And same with the merchant meme. A lot of people, you go ask 99% of people,
I'm not. No,
they don't
I
know
think
what
this
that
is
shit
excusing.
means.
No. You're excusing legitimate bigotry right now for
They don't
incompetence.
know. You don't
and I don't
fucking
know.
realize.
I don't accept it.
Don't.
Okay, but I don't accept it. Okay, well, you're just you want to be a fucking.
I mean,
Yo,
Elon, the
somebody
one
could
thing
tell
I
you to your
feel,
face they hate Jews, and you'll tell me, oh well, I don't know, they really
Yeah,
meant
nice straw
globalist
man.
or
I
something.
appreciate that.
I mean, the strange thing about it, Elon, was like as somebody who was a member of the Libertarian Party back there in the day. I mean, there are a lot of Jewish members in the Libertarian Party. Like, it's bizarre. I don't really see the anti-Semitism when I was in that party, but then they do shit like this and they spread shit like this. Where you're right. I mean, it's pretty blatant right away what the fuck that's doing. And to act like you don't know, well, then those people shouldn't be in power positions if their argument is naivety. Like what? Like, I don't know. It's not a good look. It's terrible.
So here's the follow-up. When Angela was asked about it, she said, no one viewed it that way. Nobody in leadership was paying attention to the hand posture, which is also a fairly normal hand posture in photographs. That's what Angela said. She said,
Again, going back to the Ron Paul newsletters, the
I know,
fact,
but wait,
I
a
mean,
fairly normal hand posture in
well, I agree.
photographs.
Elon, I agree with you, and I'm saying they have a history of having issues with this. Like, for them not to be on their monitors, but that's why they're libertarians, and that's why they're the Libertarian Party. That's why they're.
Well, they need to be abolished and absorbed into the Republican Party,
I
but
mean, I kind of agree with you a lot. I don't think libertarians should be allowed to run for federal positions, at least. Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, they're ruining these fucking races. And for what? They're getting on the stage and saying the dumbest shit ever. Again, I'm a reformed libertarian, okay? Like, I don't despise libertarians. I think libertarianism is a fundamental part of the American enterprise. But let's get real about what they're doing. They do nothing but play spoiler and fucking, like, kick people in the shins come election time. It's disgusting. I'm sick.
No doubt. No doubt, man. I couldn't agree more, man. I wish we could do something about it. Democrats do everything they can to lessen their third party influence in their elections. We got to do the same thing. It's not good to have. I know not every libertarian, if you destroy the party tomorrow, would come out and vote Republican, but you have to show people that you can be a lot more effective with what you're trying to accomplish from inside the GOP if you actually do have like small government, small C conservative values. In my opinion.
Dude, we got Nuance to leave. He hates this discussion. I don't.
Oh, he hates talking about actual shit, like policy and stuff, or energy for that matter. Just mention going, about fossil fuels or whatever, and he'll haul ass usually.
I don't blame him. This is pretty boring. I thought I was going to come in here and spice things up. I'm sorry, everybody.
No, good job. I appreciate it. Especially because he didn't try to lean on you to fuck with me. It was a surprise attack, and then you're like, no, you that chair's not for you. Get your ass on the floor.
Where's Luca? Where are the big hitters tonight? Fuck. A lot of quiet.
I don't know. I think Luca actually opened up another space, but you should ping him. Everybody should ping Luca Cacciatore right now and tell him to come to this space. See if you can get him to come in here and pontificate for a minute.
I think he's been lying low since he did that whole other cheek thing.
I'll be honest, I've been lying low since the election. Of course, if you remember, I was in here fucking yelling at 3 o'clock in the morning, red tsunami, motherfuckers, blood moon, we're gonna fucking blow the Congress, and I lost. I lost big time. So I took my licks, and for the past 2 months, I've just been kind of sitting on the sidelines, or the past month at least. I mean, we fucking lost big time. We got our asses kicked, and the people who said we were gonna win should probably shut up. So, I'll go now. But hey, it was nice talking to people.
Yeah, Luca's actually got a space open where it's just him and Nuance and Lisa listening to him rant about religious privatism. Current Revolt is in there. Actually, they're all speaking now. Yeah, so I don't know. Anybody else have anything to say? If not, I've been going at this for about 6 hours. I might close it down, to be honest with you. Jesse, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I have also been on here for almost as long as you, and I'm getting a little tired. So, but it's been great.
Cool. Well, yeah, give Jesse a follow if you haven't already, and we'll do this again next Sunday. Y'all have a good one, guys.
Thanks for a great night, everyone.